All right. All right. Welcome back to another podcast episode here. Another guest.
That's right. Another table. Got another setup here. Trying something different.
Jeff been playing carpenter today. Thanks for joining us, Chris. He's a new local. I think you've recently moved down this way.
Yeah, about 18 months ago. Yeah, we shifted camp from Andrew and come down your way. So 20 minutes away down the road. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited for this chat, Chris, because like I was just telling you before, I don't know much about your past. I sort of, and we'll obviously touch on the speed shop and stuff. That's something that I did know, and one of your previous builds in particular, but not much else. So I'm looking forward to this chat.
We're all gonna learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make a new mate. So yeah, where do we start?
I don't know.
You know what? I just want to ask straight off the bat. I don't want to go the generic. Oh, fucking when you were a kid, whatever.
Yeah.
You had a speed shop. Now that is a lot of car guys' dream occupation or career path or whatever. How was that? Was it as good as what you would think it is, or?
I can look back on it because I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
There was a lot of
without the rose-tinted glasses.
Yeah, there was a lot of satisfaction in it. I didn't actually want to put my name on it as Dicker's Speed Shop. I wanted to call it Rafferty's Speed Shop for the road. But the guy that I got to come and work with me, Dave Wright, he had Fitty Customs in Mandurah and he closed that, and he, after some time, he was able to come back and work for me. He said, no, use your name. If you built cars, you put your name out there. So it was odd to see my name on the shop because we had the bolt shop next door as well. So it was just, that's me. And I sort of brought it to the light a bit. More responsibility, I suppose. And because I had the bolt shop and the computer systems that ran that, when we put in the Aeroflow, I know you love that.
Our favourite.
Yeah.
All right, we'll wrap it up.
Catch you on the next one, guys.
So all the part numbers and inventory management, because I'd already done that in the bolt shop, it was easy to transfer it over into the speed shop. So that was one of the things. And it really fell together that my son James was looking at doing an apprenticeship, and I had a workshop at the back of my bolt shop, and I sold a Monaro and put the money into the stock. And I thought, if I'm going to do this, we've got to have stock. I want people to walk in and go, if you got two fittings or something, I haven't got one of them. I, as a consumer, was conscious of that. And like we had in the bolt shop, we were bolts. So if you come in looking for a bolt, you got to have all the sizes and stuff.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Putting all those things together, and then eventually the unit across the road from the bolt shop across the alleyway come up for sale as well. So I bought that and we shifted into that, and the unit behind that become available, and I got that and had 3 hoists and staff, and Richie Howlett was working for me in the front counter, great guy Richie.
Yeah, the voice of Summernats.
Oh, the Mr. Radio, Mr. talking. So it was very rewarding seeing customers' cars come in the shop and being able to help people, having chat to people, the social side of it I liked. But it was, I think, on top of the bolt shop, it started getting a lot. It was too much. I had good staff in the bolt shop running that for me, but towards the end it became a chore. And in fact, I'd go out to my shed and I'd open the door and go, right, I'm going to work on my car. I've got some time.
Yeah.
And I'd open the shed door up and I'd look in there and I'd just get overwhelmed with it all. And I was like, I do this every day, shut the door, grab a beer, go inside. It was just too much. And that side of it, I missed that. I missed that, working on my own cars. And that was when, you put that much time and effort into it. So it was very rewarding having it. Oh, you did a speed shop and you're the bloke with the car and all that sort of stuff. And we put some nice cars together. But I was sort of glad at the end of it, the way things panned out, that I was able to get out of that,
Sure.
Yeah.
So it started off, so you're doing the fasteners and that first, and then was it just that the car stuff was a bit of a hobby? You were just sort of building like yours and mates' cars or whatever, and then you thought, well, like you said, the space became available and you got as convenience, or was it actually like a progression of, no, I actually want to do a speed shop? It
really came out of nothing more than, and Dave had Fitty Customs and he had some Aeroflow fittings over there. And when he closed that, I thought, well, I'll buy the fittings and I'll put them into the speed shop.
Yeah.
And I can put part numbers on them and we can get an account with Aeroflow Rocket, and if I want any bits and pieces, I'm good to go. And then people started coming in. They knew me, that I'd played with cars. I can use price and manifold and crank and rods, and it just went, hang on, this potential here was massive on what Dave was already doing, and when he closed his shop, and to go in a different direction, and then it just all fell into place. I think I started building the sandbar. I was halfway through that, and I just went, you know, I've got the time, because I had the staff and I had the time myself to be able to devote to the shop, and I had Dave come on to run it. He come in, you can run it, and I don't want to know about it, and we'll put this stock in, we'll get it looking good, and it just grew, you know, so much that we went, you know, if we can got a chance to go somewhere bigger, and then the unit come for sale, and I was like, oh, you know, I was fortunate, I was in financial to buy that, and it just snowballed to what it was, and it was so much work, and we come across the right staff, and someone comes with the right credentials, like, yeah, you know, I can manage this and do that. So it wasn't, I didn't look at it and go, oh, I've got a bolt shop, I'd really like a speed shop. Always thought, you know, Millsy and A1s and all those shops, when you go in and you go, oh, I'd love, you know, this would be cool to do this stuff every day, but it wasn't like a preconceived idea.
Yeah.
Well,
like you're saying, just, it's nice to have a local shop that's got the stuff on the shelf, and when you're trying to do things like AN fittings, much like bolts, because you got a lot of size, thread pitch, you know, like you've got a lot of individual parts that you need to catalogue. So having that experience with the fastener side to then go towards, because it's like you can't just have a shelf of intake manifolds, you got to have an intake manifold for a Holden V8 and a small block Chev and a Windsor and a Cleveland, you know, like it's all very different stuff. So having that experience would have like been worth its weight in gold, right?
Yeah, look, I'm a fitter first class machinist by trade, and I used to make AN fittings on a CNC back in 1990.
Jesus.
We were making stainless steel fittings when they weren't available. It was a company I was making for. So thread pitches and diameters and all that sort of is all second nature. But yeah, it was like, you know, carrying intake manifold gasket set for like 6 different types of engines, because someone walks in and, you know, today then market was, have you got this? And it's like, you know, oh, I haven't got it, you know, why haven't you got an FE intake manifold set? It's like, no one's asked me for 5 years for that, you know. We'll get it in for you, you know, so we try and work around it.
20 sets of LS and friggin' Barra stuff, but it's all the odd stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, the niche market items.
It definitely sounds like you were lucky that you had good staff at the bolt shop to allow you, like, you know, to sort of let them, like, you obviously did a good job training or whatever, your systems in place to allow you to step away, because 9 times out of 10 when someone steps away from a business, a lot of the time it doesn't end well, so you were definitely lucky there. Yeah,
I put a bloke worked for me many years before that, and I got chatting to him about coming back, and he come back as a manager, and he'd done some progression in his training and that sort of stuff, and he was able to run the shop, and I didn't really, you know, he was sort of like, well, I said, I don't really want to know about it. He said, well, you fucking stay away from it. You know, it was basically that as a quick conversation. But we
treat it like your own, have fun.
It was, and he did, and he was, you know, put in that position, and did well at that, and the other staff were happy there and got looked after, and and I wouldn't, if I didn't have those staff, I wouldn't have done it, obviously. But you can't, you know, to go and actually step outside and go, I'm going to do this, you're still relying on those staff that are going to be there to back you up, to stay there. And I was lucky I had Richie could come in on different days, and my son James could run the speed shops off a short over there. I could bounce between and prioritise where I needed to be to keep things going. So it was interesting.
So when did Dicker's Speed Shop come to fruition? When did you open as Dicker's Speed Shop?
2000 and don't know. But be 6 or 7 years ago now, I think, because we've been out of 18 months. You know, sold it to Dean Jamie, it's Pro Performance Parts now.
Sure,
so I think it was going for five years as the Speed Shop, as actual, you know, trading name and stuff.
All right. So the reason, I guess the reason I ask is like that is pretty much on the peak of when online shopping was starting to sort of be on its up and coming. What was that like navigating? Did you freight a lot of parts, or were you majority like servicing your local area? Yeah,
we were spending a lot of money with Rocket, and the freight was ridiculous. You know, the size of the boxes. We try and capitalise on the size of the boxes in our freight orders. You know, everything was air freighted, was shipped over. We were getting stuff within 2 days, and I was very careful when I ordered to make sure, you know, the old under commit over supply type thing with the customers. You know, I'll be here Friday and we're bringing them on Thursday, so we really tried to keep that up. Because of the shop, I'm an older sort of guy, and the demographic of who we had coming in, we used to, you know, if you haven't got it, mate, I'll get it tomorrow. They probably planned a bit more than, I need this now, I want it now.
It's not the 19 to 21 year olds that are like, they need it now to get to work tomorrow.
Yeah, but a lot of the, you know, I knew things that when I was growing up, and you needed a power valve for a Holly, you know, you had all those, and I had all the stuff that I could think of to make sure the basics of you know, that someone the weekend, you know, flex plate bolts. Come and said to him, oh mate, put my engine in today. Yeah, mate, here you go. You know, so those things you always had 2 sets of, and you doubled up on those because people were forgetting. You know, you're trying to make up.
That's just your experience in building cars really coming through, which you know, maybe that was a strong thing.
Yeah,
for
it was
the
a good
shop
background.
As well.
It's only a genuine car person that would know, that would pick up on those things. It's like on a Saturday afternoon when you finally got that engine conversion in, what's the one thing you're going to forget?
Oh,
it's going to be that.
Yeah. And also, it's not like expensive to sit on stuff like that as well. You know, so like you might as well have it there because it'll get used, and it's not costing you a heap. Yeah, money sitting there. So.
Yeah, you're not sitting on a Joe Blow 671 kit waiting for someone to walk in and go, oh, you got one on the shelf.
As much as I would have liked to have one, I think it was on the shelf. It wouldn't have lasted a month, and I'd had one of my cars.
On your car for sure. That's what I reckon would struggle with, Jeff, if we ever do a speed shop.
Oh, don't worry.
It'll just be, oh, we'll just throw that on something. We'll be buying cars for parts rather than...
And it'll be like, oh, look, it'll make a good video, mate. We'll chuck it on.
Sponsorship,
yeah.
So you mentioned before the sandbar.
Yeah.
Explain that car to us for those that don't... I mean, I know a little bit about it, but maybe people listening don't know, and I don't know if you know, Jeff, either.
I did follow on Facebook, but I'll let you tell the story.
Yeah, it was just... it started off as something James and I were going to... You know, drag challenge was up and coming, and I sort of said, you know, you want to throw something together and we'll go and maybe do that. And
was that like the first drag challenge or the...
I'm not sure, mate. It would have been the first couple of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, it sort of got us thinking, you know, I found a ute, a mate had a ute for sale. It was one of those things, you know, things just fall together sort of. And I mean, next thing we had this ute in the workshop. It wasn't too bad, it looked like crap, but we can do some stuff and we'll just keep it bunky. And there was a ute at the time called Farm Ute. Was it Farm Ute? Farm Ute, I think it was. It had a turbo LS in it, white looking ute. And I actually bought the rear end out and some suspension parts and stuff out of that. But I sort of saw that whole, you know, not painted, not nice looking, fresh, farm fresh, you know, look.
Patina sort of.
Yeah. And I thought, well, that's great. And I saved 30 grand on panel and paint. We'll just, you know, put this together and and I was going to do, you know, we're going to do an LS because they were, you know, we could get the parts and all that stuff. And I just couldn't do it. I looked at it, I thought about it, and, you know, I'm online looking at the kits, and it was just too easy. It just really, it just seemed too...
I like this guy.
It just seemed too simple. And
it ends up being a Lego set, right? It's just you buy this mount kit, and then you put these pipes in, and it's like...
Which is great.
It's
a great thing for the scene. It honestly is.
It really
is. For someone that's chasing a challenge, I guess. Or
a veteran of the sport.
Yeah. It just, I sort of said no, and a mate of mine, Will, Jason Williams, and he said, put a barrow in it. And I was like, what?
Oh, you should have slapped him. No.
and I was like, what are you talking about? And then James is like, yeah, we put a barrow in it. I said, what's these barrow mates? Oh, yeah, these, you know, FG things. And I knew the guy working at the local taxi place, Russell, and I ran. I said, yeah, Russell, you got any barrows? Yeah, mate, come and grab one. Grab 2 of them, we don't need them. So we had these 2, they were BA engines, and we hooked them in the back of the car and took them over and hooked the motor out and sat it in there and sort of thought, oh shit, what am I doing here, you know? And I thought, we could probably make this work. This will, you know, people were putting them in HK2Gs, pretty easy commodores, and the conversions were out there and stuff. And I thought, no one's really done one of these. And the more I looked at it, I thought, I'm sure if I can make and fabricate and whatever, and I'm not in a hurry. Didn't have the speed shop. I had no inkling of starting a speed shop. And just sort of looked at it and said, yeah, fuck it, I'll do it. I'm going to have a crack at this, you know. This will put me on, put the thin cap on. And at the time, I had my golf day was my Wednesdays was my, you know, walk into my dirty clothes, say hello to everyone, the staff and that, and go back to my workshop, which had a hoist and fabrication gear and all that stuff. And they'd come and talk to me if they need to most of the time. Chris is not here, you know, I just go to the back and have that day a week.
Point only.
Yeah. So I just started working on that and cutting sumps up and trying to jam it in there. And then we, you know, I went to Wollaston Wreckers in Perth, and they had a FG XR6 turbo motor and ZF 6-speed auto and tail shaft and loom and all that stuff there. And he showed me a video of it running on an iPad and showed me around the car, and it was some ute that some bloke had put through a paddock fence and written off. And I said, they've done like 73,000 Ks. Yeah. So I grabbed all that and took it home. They were really good. I went back and cut tunnel out and stuff. And yeah, mate, whatever you need, they're really good. And just sort of then sat the ZF in there and went, bloody hell, this is massive, you know.
They are, aren't they? They are fucking behemoths.
They're huge. And then started looking into how we're going to make that run and computers and and I had two chassis, and I built one chassis up and mocked it up, cut, put a trainer rack in the front of it, which enabled to run. I wanted everything in the factory location. I didn't want to go making up alternator brackets in different spots. I wanted everything as it was, and I put trainer rack in there, and modified the sump with an external pickup. So I got CNC machined a block that went up into the oil pump and welded into the aluminium sump, and then an external pickup went down and picked up through a screen at the bottom of the sump. And that was a pain because the alley sump, even though it was bolted to the motor, as soon as it welded it went like that. So
it doesn't matter what you... I've thought about making a video on what heat does to steel, and aluminium's actually the best out of all of them. Steel and stainless and that move a lot more, but it doesn't matter what you do. It'll fight everything. It'll break itself apart. Like it really will.
How many times have you tried to put a V-band on, and no matter how hard you try clamping that thing to keep it flat, there's still a bit of a bow in it.
We put on a big belt sander and flattened it, but then all the cross bolts through the side elongate them to get it on. It worked, and it sealed up, and I got a guy Rob to come and tune it and got that done, and it was sort of, we got around to this thing. I started a page called FG Falcon on Facebook because I didn't want to give away the sandbar name and the thing about that I had in the back of my head rattling around, and I thought, it's a Ford engine Holden car, and I just straight away went, it's a Sandman Ute. Hey, those stripes can morph into XWGT looking thing, and it just came to me, and I went, don't tell anyone. Keep it quiet. So I just kept. A mate of mine had Sun City Signs in Geraldton, and I saw him to secrecy, and they tweaked the logo and put the little the kangaroo he made into a barra fish, and
that was genius, honestly. When I first saw that, and I saw the little barra on the quarter panel, I'm like, that's fucking ripper. He's gone the extra mile.
A little turbo hanging off it, and the same wheels I was running, it was its wheels, and he printed out a dummy graphics on his Ute. He's got Signman on the back of his tailgate. He's a sign one. And he stuck it on his car, and we tweaked the front of it and got the angles right, and then he printed stickers and sent them down.
Wow.
And my signwriter put them on, I think 2 nights before the WA Hot Rod show, and I really pushed shit uphill to get that car to be at that. It wasn't running. I wasn't engineered, wasn't licensed, but I got it there, and they unveiled it, and it went all over the place and stuff with that. So.
And it kind of did go all over the place, right? Because, like you say, it was sort of the first of its kind. There was a couple of people that had done, some KTG Barra things or whatever, but to execute it at the level that you did was you're an early adopter in that regard.
Yeah, look, when I spoke to the guys at Castlemaine Rod Shop about the Trana rack conversion kit, they said, look, we looked into doing it as a conversion, but their idea to do it was to supply a firewall piece that stepped the firewall in to bring the motor back, so you didn't have to play around the sumps. You just put it in and shifted it back, and everything sat back, and they just thought it was too much work. It wasn't going to sell, wasn't going to do it, and they abandoned the idea, but they had looked at it earlier on. And it turned out quite well. It had the little decal in the centre of the GDS steering wheel on the dash, and we sort of incorporated things in it, and a bit of hydrographics around the place, and I put a BF rock cover on it because it looked better than the FG, and just tried to did little things like the booster where your valve is, rotated that around so it was out the way, and just painted little things and put aircon on it so it had had a full aircon system integrated in it, and it got engineered, past the pits and fully engineered and licensed. And
so it was just pretty much standard motor, just with a tuner?
We did valve springs and tensioners and stuff on the front, the normal sort of stuff you do.
Basic stuff.
Oil pump, tensioner, valve springs.
That basic stuff. Because if we wanted to put boost in it, the springs are already done. But I never did anything with it. We just put a stock tune in it, had the stock exhaust, I think it had like a BF or something, V8 cat underneath of it, which they were really, the engineer was not really happy with. It's not a standard cat for that thing because it was 2010, so it was
so it was like
Euro
a
3
thing
was coming out, and it was like, sort of, they looked at it and probably went, well, just put that under and away you go. And noise test and all the tests. It did all that. It was.
So, what was that process like? Because that just, to me, is just, I don't want to know about it, but you've been there and done it. worth it? Depending.
Oh yeah. Look, to
obviously being sensible, yes, it's worth it. But for like someone that's thinking about it, like if it's easy to swap back, would you engineer every single car?
Look, this is a secret. No one has to hear it.
No
one's going to hear it. No one's going to know. Would you just run the gauntlet next time?
I think it was already licensed. You probably would.
Yeah.
Because, there was nothing on it. They just wanted to have a look at it because we changed the brakes, had like a FG Falcon rotor and caliper kit on the front of it, and the steering was all changed. So we had to send it up to Perth to have a look at it, and because they changed those major things. But the rest of it, it was not much more effort of going through those processes to have a car that was fully legal and compliant on the street. And then your insurance,
Sure.
I didn't want hassles of that, of not having that. And because of the speed shop, I had the time and the funds and all the rest of it to go through it and do it all. And it was a standard engine, so it did, you knew it was going to pass the 5-gas and noise and all those things if you did it right. And it wasn't too low, and it wasn't stupid twin turbo or anything silly like that. It worked with the engineer, and we would cut things through like the front radiator support. I had to put a ring around there and strengthen it and all those, go through all those things. So, but working with the engineer along the way, instead of turning up and going, hey, I built this car, then you get they're sort of like, hey, but working with him, we were able to overcome obstacles. And like, for example, the cross member, I know how to make cross member, but I said to him, these are the things I want to do. He drew the cross member up. It got him involved in it more, and he charged me a couple of bucks to draw a cross member up. It was basically what I was going to do anyway. but I felt that for him to be able to do that, because the ZF's so big and heavy, it was like, I want to back what my thinking is up with that, and he engineered that. And
get him on board as well, I guess.
Oh, he's a great guy. He did all the cars in the speed shop for us. And we did a lot of cars through him, and he was good.
Yeah, because I think that's probably where a lot of people are going to fall over, is that they're going to build something like they're going to read the ADRs. They're going to read what is it?
They're not going to read them.
VSB.
That's the one. VSB 14, and they're going to be like, all right, cool, yep. And because when you read things, you can kind of make it your own interpretation to make it the easy way, right? So you get that done, and then you rock up to the engineer and go, right, I've read all the books, mate. You can't teach me nothing. And here's the car. You just got to sign it off. That's when you're gonna get butt fucked, probably.
Yeah.
But like I say, if and I've seen Al when he was on the Skid Factory say the same thing. These cars that they build, he said, we wouldn't have laid a spanner on it until such time as we consulted an engineer. And they sort of get here's your guidelines. We know full well that once it's signed off, you're probably going to change a couple of things anyway. But if you want me to sign off on this thing, this is it. This is the package you got to work with.
The parameters you got to work with, Look, you got to get them on board from the start.
Exactly.
You can do
There's
a lot.
No point trying to go. They're the be all and end all. So it doesn't really matter what you do.
Yeah.
If they're not on board, they're not on board, because you're going to get a different opinion from one engineer to the next as well. They're not all black and white. Yeah, all good. Like you said, interpretation rules are there to be interpreted. Bent, broken, whatever. So
lawyers have made a killing out of that over the years.
So depending on who you know, so I guess the big battle is knowing like someone that is good, someone that is reputable and like good to work with and reasonable,
In
and
theory,
not just someone that reads the grey area, but because you don't necessarily want someone that's just going to do something because that's what you want either. You want someone that's going to be proficient at what they do and have reasoning why they do it the way they do it.
As in the engineer.
Yes.
Well, they're all trained, university trained. Their ass is on the line, so they're going to do what they can. They're not going to fudge anything. My engineer would not. It had to be 10 mil out on wheel track. I was like, sort it out.
Yeah.
You're probably going to go and change wheels on it later, but when I see that car, it's got to be my ass on the line,
Exactly.
So it's got to be right. And your basic, HQ, LS1, Turbo 400, disc brake 9-inch wheelwoods on it, you can go and build that car because it's been done before.
Yeah, all the kits are ADR approved.
Yeah, and then they're going to see the fitment and the bolt, 3 threads here, and make sure, and they're going to look at it. They can basically inspect the vehicle and say, yes, this ticks all the boxes. There's things that people might not get, which is maybe retractable seat belts in the back of it if you didn't have them.
Yeah.
A couple other upgrades that you got to have for that modification. But But if you get on board early enough, it costs you nothing. You're going to still pay the same amount of money. My engineer would start a file. I'd say, here's some details, and get on early, and we're doing this, and he's going to put this in, and he would start a file. And then when he'd come to manager or do other cars, we've done this and done that. And he'd add to the file, take some photos of bits and pieces, engine number and cross members and stuff, and add to the file. So it was you're compiling that file. So at the end of it, it was like, there's the car. Yep, know all about it. Click, click, click. Happy, happy, happy. No. Let's go for a test drive, brake test, noise test, height. I'm happy with that dyno test. Engine, rear wheel horsepower and stuff.
Yeah.
And
it's
then
all,
sign off.
Power to weight, right? It's I think 180 kilowatt per tonne or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been through this, and I took the sandbar up to Department of Transport, and the guys all came out and they wanted to have a look at it, and had a look at it. And one of them come out, he was eating his chicken chow mein or something, come out, there you go, mate, nice car. And he was really personable, great guy. And I sort of threw a few things to him and said, when I take this car home, I'm going to put 265 and 245s on it. And he goes, mate, when we looked at it,
fill your boots.
It's what it is, He said, but your insurance will be void. And he was right. And I said, why can't you let me have 265s and 8s on the back? Really? Like, the Barra engine in this car, and you can't have, that's the guidelines and engineer, and that's where you got to work with and stuff. And I brought it up with him and said, you made me fit FG rotors and calipers to it. I've still got drums in the back. It passed the brake test, and I've passed it on like a 215/65 tyre.
Yeah.
So why, if you're going to do it, why didn't you say, you've got to put a 16-inch rim on it, a 235/45 FG size tyre. I've got 4 discs on it. That's up to engineer. So it's convenient to, we want to have a look at it, but it's your engineer. But when the engineer you want him to do something, it's like, no, the engineer can't do that.
Yeah.
So I sort of let it be known about that, and I actually asked a question of the guy. I said, "With this 180 kilowatt per tonne thing come up, it's not on camera, is it?" He said that there was a crash, a really bad fatality, and a double fatality, and their department in WA went back and had a chat about it. Said we can't have this happen, especially these style engines getting put in old cars without the safety gear, and they come up with the ruling, and they based it on a GDHO Falcon, and then they added so many % more to give you a leeway, and said, well, that's what you can have, that's your guidelines. And cubic inch and turbo is all related, and it's all in the VSBs of what you can build and what you can't have. And the Sandbar was, I think it was a 245 kilowatt car, and I think the maximum was like 235, a turbo for that car engine, and that was passed. They allowed it because it went on the dyno and it did what it was supposed to do. So I did ask those questions about the engineering level of, where you can go and how far you can go and stuff. So,
but as like you say, there's nothing stopping a bloke, putting a Gemini converter and a 4-pound spring and some skinny tyres in a car. The engineer walks in the room, you run the dyno, he ticks the box, walks out, and then you put the 15x8s and a 20
They've got to cover their arse.
20 pounds of boost in it. It's so easy to change these things, and obviously it kind of defeats the purpose of doing it, because you're doing it to be legal and you're doing it for insurance. And
you're doing it for the paperwork when you get pulled over. Yeah. Unbeknownst to the copper, it's legal. That's not lie. That's what it's for. Because all us guys, we're not going to drive something that we think's unsafe. So no matter what anyone said, written, whatever, we know that the cars are safe, and we're not going to drive in them if they're not. But you need the backing from your insurance and the coppers. You don't want to get in hassle, basically. Yeah. That's what it's all about.
People like ourselves and a lot of people that watch the channel and stuff, whatever they're building is going to be far and beyond OEM level, right? In regards to safety, does it have the 500,000 kilometres of testing and whatever? No, it might not, but you like you say, you're going to an FG disc and caliper, that's got to be far better than the factory drum brakes. Like things like that. It just, the mind boggles. Yeah,
it really goes on, and we spoke about, the guy said, look, this car here, you built a great car, it's safe and it complies. He said, but you go and sell this to a P-plater, we need to know that guy doesn't go and write himself off. So we have to govern that, because we don't know, you might be safe and driving and don't drive in the wet, and your limitations, but someone else might not. So he had some really good points to consider about that. But us guys, we you know, I don't need the hassle. I'm not going to take my X amount of horsepower car out, pissing out of rain and go and, you know, lay some scars in the wet because I can.
Yeah.
You know, you just respect your car too much, I think. And that's...
Right.
Well, look, if you do go out doing skids in the wet in a car that you're not uber familiar with, I can tell you what happens.
I didn't think we were going there. But, yeah. So
the car went to the WA Hot Rod Show to be unveiled?
Yeah, we pulled the covers off it there, and I put on my FG Falcon page, I put, you know, here it is with the sort of few photos on it, and it just went crazy. It just had so many views, and Rocket and Aeroflow shared it, and it was over. There was people commenting in different languages and stuff all around the place, and you know, there was the haters,
of course,
and
the blasphemy, blasphemy.
There was the haters of the haters,
yeah.
You know, and it was interesting to read some of the comments because those people defending other people. Do you know the car only had a GDS guard on one side?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I built it, I had the driver's side GDS guard with the flutes in it, and I thought I've got to find the passenger side one. So I started looking for one, and because of the XW sort of thing with the bonnet scoop on one side of the bonnet, I was already thinking of, do I put an air inlet on that side so it's feeding air over the turbo to allow the air to pass through the inner guard, what Holden designed them for, you know. So I was already sort of thinking that way, and I thought, well, if that's on there and that's the hot side, do I need a GDS guard on the other side? And I thought, I wonder if I can get away with that, you know, and I just put a standard guard on it.
Of course you can.
And it was just it was like, yeah, fuck it, it's my car, I'll do what I want. And
you enjoyed breaking the rules a bit, I can tell.
It's a creativity thing,
Exactly.
and it's an expression of what people think you can and can't do. Yeah. And I thought, if you're going to break their hearts seeing a forward and a hold, and what's a bloody, no guard missing for? And one bloke actually, there was a big kerfuffle, and one bloke actually put a picture and photoshopped the flutes in it on that side. There you go, boys, just to shut them up. Yeah. There's
some people that definitely spend too much time on there. Eh?
Like
I like to be a joke around hater. We hang shit on LSs all the time and barrow owners and all that, even though we've had them all ourselves. But some people seriously believe that, like no matter how much time and effort and how well you've executed, they're like, nah, should have kept it original and this and that. It's like, fucking shut up.
Did that kind of reaction kind of take the shine off the unveil for you at all?
No, not at all, no. The reaction at the show was really good. I had a mate, come past and going, bloody hell, mate, my news feed's just all your bloody car, And Street Machine rang up and got a bit of a chat about it, and then they shared it on their page, thank you. And I had, a lot of people walking around looking at it and stuff, and one bloke come up to me and he said, your car, is it, mate? I said, yeah, and he goes, I can see what you've done, but I don't like it. And I said, oh, thanks, and he walked off, and I thought, I appreciate that. Yeah. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but, if you wanted to come and punch me in the head or say something, here's the time to do it. Yeah. But, everyone got some of the thing and they're all heroes about it. But most of the reception was, look, I thought of that car and I thought, I will listen to my peers, people in the industry that, hot rods had Fords and Chevs and other engines and stuff that. So I sort of listened to the people that I looked up to or looked to their respect and was reciprocal. So that's where I gauged, what the car was like. And
a custom car builder, not just a catalogue car builder.
You can't listen to the internet. That's the worst thing you can do.
No, it never really bothered me. Some of the stuff on there was, quite cruel, quite murderous,
It's funny though, eh?
It was.
We get it. Whenever we haven't had anything for a while, but it's entertainment for us.
Yeah, we love it. We send a screenshot and it's like you're on a night shift or whatever. It's like, oh, you see this?
Yeah. And we promise we'll never delete anything, eh?
Nah.
It's staying there.
Yeah.
We don't care. But
yeah, I think they keep... After the show, I took it home, got the tune done and stuff, and then put it up for engineering, got it licensed, and... and put the other wheels straight back on it, as you do. Yeah. And I probably did maybe 100 kilometres in it, I suppose. With that car, we put sound in everywhere in it. It was a stock motor. It was so quiet. It was the quietest Holden I'd ever been in. Yeah. And the motor was so smooth. that you had to look down the tacho and go, it's actually running. Like, it was just so, and I took a mate for a drive and we went out onto a certain road and it was 2 lanes and there was no cars anywhere, and just left it in drive and it had the like Caltrax on the back of it.
Yeah.
And it was a 355 LSD Salisbury in it, and just bricked it, and it ran like the guy that bought it ran 11.7 in it, with a good set of tyres on it, and then he since tuned it, it was around 11.2, so it was a really quick, quiet, smooth street car. It worked out really good, and it just put you in the back of the seat, you know, and you had 5 pound or something like that, and it just hauled ass. I was like, what is this thing, you know? And then
the ZF, I've always said it, the ZF makes that engine, I believe. Like, obviously, they're not the greatest for racing or whatever, although it's not bad, but just how smooth the ZF works. Like, because I've got one, I have an XR turbo with a ZF6.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the car good, I think. Not really necessarily the engine. The engine's great, but the ZF coupled with that engine and with how they make the power with the stock size turbo, they pull so strong, so low, and so effortlessly.
Yeah.
It's fantastic
and
combination.
it was a light car.
Yes.
You know, it was just nice and quiet, aircon going. You know, it was a nice car to drive in. Then I sold it.
Yeah. So it would have it did a bit of the show circuit after that though. You did a couple other shows, or no?
I think I went to a Cars and Coffee at the Motorplex. Did a local Cars and Coffee in it. I don't think I did anything else with it. I just, you know, I advertised it and put a stupid price on it and got actually shit caned for that.
Yeah.
And you know, just put something on it different. And then a bloke over in New South Wales, you know, rang me up and said, you know, that's really cool, and he got it, you know, and he took it back and he put the GDS style alloy wheels on it because he reckons that it was more Sandman inspired. And yeah, he did a tune up on it and injectors and some other stuff. And he goes, is it Coupe 500?
Oh yeah, actually I think
Coupe
that's
400
coming up. Actually, the Coupe airstrip.
Yeah, and he's if you watch a few videos, it's in there. He's out there racing it, and his name's Lou, and he's a great guy. And sends me a picture every now and then of, you know, the horsepower on the dyno and racing, and he loves it. You know, it's in his stable. So yeah, it's a cool car.
Shifting gears.
Yeah,
You've done another ute that's right up our alley, and it's completely the opposite of the ute that you've just been
surrounded by
talking
Commodore
about.
lovers. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, because I remember seeing it, and I remember it made good power for a naturally aspirated Holden V8. Like, not a lot of people build an engine of that caliber, really. Like, they're sort of, you got to spend a lot of money, and they're fairly cantankerous and stuff like that. Tell us a bit about that ute, because that was quite cool. It's right up our alley.
Well, I sold my HQ. Do you guys know what a HQ is? Yeah. I sold my blown HQ, and I wanted to have a bit of fun. And this, again, looking through bloody marketplace, a Quokka probably was, and there's VS Commodore ute, tubbed, you know, it had set up for blown deal or something, and it was unlicensed, and it was the right price. I went and had a look at it, and I was like, I could probably do something with this. And at the time, a mate of mine and myself bought a VK track car, like a Brocky track car with a cage and all that stuff in it. Had a good 355, dash 9s on it, nice engine, gearbox, pretty proven combo, brand new motor in it. And we went up to Barbagallo's, and he had raced all the racing gear. So I said, you go and do some laps in it, and then I'll race the next mate or something. He got like a lap and a half in it, and the leg dropped out of it down the main straight, just oil pissing out of it. And
what a way to start.
Oh, mate. And I pulled the engine out of it, and all the rod bolts were loose.
Oh, no.
And then we tightened them up. I said, Brad, come and have a look at this. I've not touched anything. Have a look at this. It was just like they'd just been nipped and not tensioned up. So that's why it lasted as long as it did. But out of that, I got the deal split up, and he got the car, and I got some other stuff, and I kept the heads and intake and some other stuff. And it must have been around that time I was like, I'll build a tough Holden, and it was, two-tone was going there, and Holden V8s were, put out 550 on the engine dyno, so it was pretty stout at the time. And I think I'd come across a Turbo 350 with like a 5,000 converter, and it already had 9-inch in it. I think it was 4.3, the full spool, 35 spline.
Damn.
And I sort of went to my panel and paint guy. I didn't really do anything with the engine bay. I was like, just a Commodore, just whack this motor in and go have a bit of fun in it, and beat up on it. And I made the statement, and I shouldn't have. I made the statement in, I think it was on the cover of
I was going to say, I remember hearing this, what you're about to say. I don't know where I read it, but I remember reading it.
It was on the cover of the Commodore sister publication, Tough Utes or something like that.
Oh, right, yeah.
Jordan Least, great bloke, coming photos, and it was on the cover of that. And I wrote in there, something smart, like it's only a Commodore. It's not like you're going to bang a quarter up on a GDR or monaro or something like that. And what happened?
Yeah, that's what you said. You said you've gotten into this because you don't care about if you hit it against the wall, it doesn't matter. It's just the Commodore.
Don't say that. Don't ever jinx shit like that. It's just the Commodore. So I took it to your mate, Steve Brown at Brown Brothers Restoration in Maroon, and he painted the monaro. And I said, I want to do silver and orange. He goes, well, yeah, I said, no, we'll do the same silver. And the orange was that. What was the orange that was going around? The Ford Focus orange.
Oh, yes,
everyone was doing that.
Orange,
So we did I said, I want two-tone, and I said, I want to put a lime green stripe down the side. And he goes, oh, mate, what are you doing, dude? I can't lime green. And I said, what do you got? And he goes, we've got some wild violet GDHO colour. I said, we'll do that then. So he sprayed all grey underneath, all grey. And my mate Shane Costa from Motec Racing in Pinjarra made a nice molly cage up and seat mounts, and we tied the back of the cage in through underneath the cargo section with brackets that mounted onto the factory falling brackets.
Yep.
So anything that was transferred through the diff was transferring through the cage, and had a panhard bar on it, and had coilovers and stuff on it, and it was all sheet metal housing and forward discs and that.
Sounds like it was set up to fuck.
Oh, it's just the way I like doing things, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it was, the converter and gearbox came, I got one, I'll grab that. It was just all sort of worked. It was a full manual reverse pattern trans brake thing. And I think we got it painted and finished. And I got Derek Paulick built the engine for me. And it was a four-bowler, and he did some oiling mods and other stuff in it. And
did he do up the Conrad bolts? I bet he did.
Yeah, that was priority on the list. I just said to him, I want this thing to go, what can we do to it? And he sort of had a list of his, highest performance 308s, 355 combos and 350s and stuff. And he goes, right, leave it with me. And then we put it on CNR's dyno, and it made that with a 950 or something on it with a Harrop single plane and stuff. And put it in there, and it was a bit of a stout sort of weapon when we got it going. It had Kirky seats in it. It was very race inspired, overhead switch console, because didn't care about rego. It had indicators, lights and all that stuff, and brake lights and that sort of stuff worked, and a basic wiring harness. And I can't remember when we got it going, but did the photo shoot and stuff. Took it up to, I had it at Motivation driving around or something, and then it was like, this is, Power Cruise, we're going to go Power Cruise. It must have been Power Cruise first. Because I had 22s all around on it.
Yeah.
And they come from somewhere, but they were painted. They were painted black, I think. My brother might have got them, and I got them, paint stripped them. And my good mate Michael White, he helps me with all my cars. Hand polishing these things, because they were, what are they called? But they had.
Were they like an Intro Vista or something?
They
were they the billets of VU for you? Do you remember the Street Machine VU for you?
Green.
Well, a dude at some point in time, I seen it at Motivation one year, and he had that car, VU for you, and that had billets on it, but it had like 22s on the back, and when it was originally come out, like 17s on the front, and I'm pretty sure he bought some bigger ones and painted them black. I wonder if they were the wheels, because were they like the 5-spoke ones that sort of went... Just had the
they had like a fair bit of stuff going on.
Yeah, okay, no, I might be getting my wires crossed.
And we ended up polishing those up.
So they were fun to polish then, anyway.
Oh, that was the primer and all the stuff and paint stripping, and we got them. I think there were 22s and 10s, and I bought the front 22s. That's right. So I had a spare set of 20s. It was 20s and 22s, and I bought 22s for the front, so it was 22s all round. Wow. And it sat a bit, it had coilovers in the front. That's right. I put it in the Burswood hot rod shows where I first debuted it with the 22s on it, and it sat a little bit nose heavy, but it had that little bit of a race car sort of look to it. And then I end up selling the 22s and putting 20s in the front of it, which nosed it down and made it look better. But we took it up to Power Cruise, and my brother had his 383 Holden HQ Ute, which put out some pretty good power. And we were there early. There was no one there, and thankfully no one got it on video. And we'd done like a lap and a half, and we went down the straight. We come around the back corner, and it had like the 22s on it. They're like a 25 series tyre.
Yeah.
I hadn't set the coilovers up. They were rock hard, and we come around the corner, and it was full manual reverse pattern and stuff. And he was on my tail, and it's sort of where it goes through, and it sort of snakes through like that. And I've just belted this thing and reefed top, and it's just like that. And I had a guy with me. That's one of Todd's mates. And I'm looking backwards going, this is not real. You know, Todd's like, wow. And I was like, I'm braking, and I go, oh, this is pulling up. And then it hit the grass and just kept going. And dunk. And I'm sitting there, the walls there and the mirrors in like that. And I was like, oh, fuck. Turn it all off. And you're right, Jared? And he said, yeah. So we started up, drove back, and the diff's going like this, it broke the pano bar.
The self-fulfilling prophecy, mate.
Yeah.
It happened.
So this is the second time you've done a lap and a half at Barbagallo and something bad's happened. Well, because the engine stuffed up in the first lap.
Well, yeah, I didn't never put that together. Maybe
that engine might just not like Barbagallo, eh?
Maybe those heads. Well, I took it back to Shane's house, Costy's house that night, and he retigged the bracket on and fixed it. I picked it up first thing in the morning, went back there, and I just beat the shit out of it all day.
Because the rear quarter panel got all stoved in, didn't it?
It was stoved in, yeah. It was sort of, it pushed the tail light and it came up to halfway of it. And I got people to ride on it and just like, you fucked up. Uncle Chris, you wrecked the car and all that. And I was like, whatever, let's go and just... And I still had the 22s on them. I was going out and belting on them. I didn't change wheels for it and stuff. I wanted to have it with its wheels on and be driving around with those wheels on, not putting burnout tyres on it. And Todd took it for a drive and beat that crap with it while I was sitting next to him. And it was an interesting car. And I think we ended up putting the welds on it. And Brad, again, he had the race suit and the Andrew licence and he raced it. I think he got 10.7 out of it.
Yeah, okay.
Just foot braking it. We didn't use the trans brake on it. 10.7, and then I sold that one to a local guy. Brad bought that off me, another bloke. And he had it for a while and he changed a few little things on it, and then he sold it and I went to South Australia. Then it's, every now and then it's at Summernats, in the Summernats videos. The same similar combo, the scoop and all that sort of stuff. Cruising around the videos in there and stuff. So having fun in it, yeah.
Sweet.
So that was that one. That was my foray into Commodores.
Yeah. Stepping away from...
I forgot to say, I got another quarter panel off a ute and took it down to Brown Brothers and they repaired it, made it all like brand new and repainted those bits and stuff. So it was all back to the way it was. So yeah, cool car. But the cage and the Kirky seats in it and harness and stuff, I never felt unsafe in it. It was all designed to go racing and be safe, So as a Vents car, So,
Party car.
Oh, it was party, all right, yeah.
Now we've got no Power Cruise, so we can't do that stuff anymore.
And it's a crying shame, it really is.
Did you like Power Cruise? I think that's the best show we've had over here, I reckon. I like it. I think
you would have heard us talk about it, Chris, but just the roll racing aspect, as well as when they did the off-street drag. So you had your standing start, you had your roll racing, you got a lot of track time as an entrant, which gave you a lot of bang for buck. You're not just sort of sitting in the staging lanes like you do at Motivation quite often, which has probably gotten better over the years, but still probably got a long ways to go. What was your thoughts on both Motivation and Power Cruise as an entrant?
Power Cruise, it was something that was with my brother and mates come up and all that sort of stuff. And to me, it's going out and having fun in the car is good fun and doing it. It's all about the mateship and coming along and getting there and all the work and parts and stuff. I took my wife for a drive. James was too young, he was spewing, he couldn't go in it. But I took a lot of people for laps in it, and I sort of had beat on it that much that it became boring. Yeah. I'd sort of, you line up and then come around the corner and it'd neutralise into nothing. You just wood it and shift top and just hang on to the thing, and the tyres were nothing, they just skid, spin. And it was sort of like, I was like, okay, I could go home now, and I sort of, I've done it. I've done 10 laps of doing skids like that and racing up the back straight and stopping for the chicanes and stuff. So that was enough for me to go to that event and do that. But Motivation, I've really done it with it as a going for the grand champion, the driving events, the 2 years in the HQ, and I always wanted to have a car that could be proven to drive. You got to drive the thing, and that was an important part. And that was, just a basic go to woe, the slalom. I don't think there was much else in there, but you gave it a bit of a bootful off the start. It was a brand new combo, motor and gearbox, and a little bit, spend all this money and time and first sort of big build of a full car that you don't want to go, put into the wall. So it was I showed restraint and respected the vehicle and the time I'd put into it and stuff. So totally different.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, well, like you say, you've entered for two totally different reasons with two totally different calibers of car. So yeah, it's probably not a real fair comparison. I can certainly appreciate that.
But I can see now with, if you're not just doing, driving around and doing and then driving lining up for that. If you're doing, we're doing roll racing now. We're going to do this, and now it's how it's evolved into more different things on the and then the track, just basic cruising with your mates and stuff. Yeah. The more things that you can get to do, I suppose, and use your car for, it's more kilometres per dollar,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you've touched on the HQ and the journey to Grand Champion. Let's run through. This is obviously something that a lot of people would only dream to do is build an elite level vehicle. So let's sort of run through what's the build process like. Where do you start for building that level of car? How does that get manifested and then come to reality?
Ask the missus.
Yeah.
That was a fair. I think I had the HQ in my shed, and I actually bought it to cut the rear end out making a drag car. It was too good. It was just such a good car. And I bought a HK that already had the tubs and cage, so I went racing that for a few years and sold that. And it just got sort of pushed in the corner while I played around with basic street cars and stuff, and didn't have the business. I was working. And when we got the business, I'd worked there for 18 months before I bought it and turned it around, increased the turnover a lot in the first year and then a lot more in the second year, and more staff, and really got it pumping. And I was a bit itchy to do something, and financially we could do it. And I spoke to Vanessa about, I'd really like to build a blown car and have a blown car driving around in Mandurah and get on the cover of Street Machine. And her words were, if you're going to do it and do it properly. And without her support, through all of my cars and all of my madness and addiction, you just can't do it without family support and mates and stuff. And that sort of started. I think I had a vision of, I had some VN heads and a Holden engine and a manifold. I was going to cut the top off and mount the blower to that because things wouldn't blow up manifolds and VNs, and I scrapped that idea. And I sort of got the business and went, I'm building a 350, and I built plenty of motors, so I built the motor for it and made the housing and built the diff centre. And it'd never been together, that car. I bought it sort of fully stripped, so it was like, I hope everything's here. It wasn't pulling apart. It was like, there's two regulators, there's the mouldings, there's this and that, and
can't do it a stock take as you go. Like
what do I need? And the decision was to just make it what I want it to be to achieve those goals of, I want it on the magazine cover, and I wanted to put it in motivation and do pretty well with that, and I want to drive a blown car on the street.
So right from the outset, that was the goal with that car. It wasn't like you're building it because, ask me and Kurt how this happens, but you're building a tough streeter and then but while we're there we'll do this, and then it evolves into something else. This one was right from the get-go.
Yeah, that was my goals, and the vision I already had in my head there was the colour already came to me. It was already a factory silver car, and there was not a lot. It was sort of the cusp of people turning HQs and GT replicas into the GT replicas, and HQs and Js back in, restoring the HKTGs back in the stripes and putting original mouldings and back on, putting the badges back on. Yeah. So it was sort of coming around that, and there wasn't a lot of silver and orange cars around. Internet was not anything in those days, and I thought that silver and orange stripes will pop, and very clear vision from the start of what the engine bay was going to look like. I wanted all factory black GDS interior. It was an LS Monaro, but I wanted the GDS interior in it. I wanted the 7s and 9s on it. Fuel tank was going to go in the boot. I had a good grounding of where it was. I didn't really understand budgets yet of where that was going to end up, but
don't worry about that.
Yeah, semantics.
I learnt pretty quickly. But I set the goal for that, to have that at motivation, whatever time that was, like a year, 18 months later, to try and achieve that as well. So those parameters were set early on, and there was no real deviation. There were small things like, the GDS dash, but I'm going to have a shift light mount on the side of it instead of having a 5-inch tacho, and the different shifter was picked as you go along, because that carbon fibre and the 2 gauges in there, that'll do. So things like that evolved, but the rest of it was
The theme.
Fairly
The
focused.
theme, yeah. Well, I could see it. I could actually visualise and see it on the cover, of how I wanted it to look on the cover, and I actually made a 4-inch spacer under the blower to put the blower higher, out of 16mm plate, and got it machined up and drilled and put O-rings in it, just to lift the whole blower up, to put it up out the bottom more, to have more impact and more presence on it. Yeah.
How important is of having a theme on a car? Because I feel like it gets lost sometimes along the way. Like, you can see a car and it could have like all the killer parts, but like, like obviously there's personal preference when you build cars. Everyone likes what they like, but I feel like if you've got a theme that you want to go for and you can kind of make it make sense, the overall impact of the car will work a lot better, even for the same amount of money, effort, and all that stuff. If you've got a theme and you sort of know, how to build a car, and it all makes sense, it makes such a difference, doesn't it, to when you're building? I
think it makes sense to more people why you've done it. The more people, I suppose, that get it and go, this makes a better car. The sum of the parts together make a car. We all know rims and stance makes a car as well.
Yeah.
A lot more people are getting that right nowadays. But personal preference comes into it, and you got to, as you get older, if you're happy with that, that's cool, But throwing parts at things and off the shelf bits can sometimes look. It may be effective in what it's going to achieve, whether it's a race car, drift car, and its parameters it's trying to go for. But and stickers on the side of the car because it's a race car. Obviously, that's why it's got it. But if you can visualise what you like, and I suppose your personality, what you think's like, and what you got to live with it. You got to accept it. And if other people can see that your vision makes sense and the theme makes sense, then that's obviously a bonus.
Yeah.
If you ever go to sell it, it makes sense. If it's a neutral sort of colour, and you can repair it as well. If you have any issues with it, and there's a lot of things that come in it. Customisation of interiors and stuff. Some people look at it and go, "Wow, that's." Other people go, "Oh, what do you do that for?" But that's personal preference, and we all should be able to make your opinion on it, not to the guy's face sometimes. But I think if you've got opportunity to think about it more and plan it more, the theme of the car and what you're trying to achieve, then I think it'll sort of all fall together and gel.
Yeah. An analogy that I've often used for building a car, and it's the same with building an engine as well, it's kind of like baking a cake, right? You've got your recipe of things that go together, and like say if you're talking about an engine, if you've got too much camshaft and not enough compression, it's going to be a bit of a mismatch. Same thing with like the body. If you're going to have like some wild big flares, but you're not going to have the wheels to suit, that's not going to be right. When you're baking a cake, if you put too much flour and not enough egg in it, is it going to be a cake? Yes, but it's going to be a shit cake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's probably it's one way of looking at it. And there's certainly exceptions to the rule as well, right? If you look at, we've mentioned this car 800 million times on the podcast, but Tim Laidler's SV88 VL, it's got that giant top fuel scoop on the top of it and the massive wheels. Like, some people will say that's too much. I feel like that car's almost an exception to the rule, but it's just done. I think because it's got the massive blower hat, it needed the big wheels. That sort of evens out the recipe on the cake.
But it's all the little stuff. It's the millions of little things on the execution of everything which makes it work. Like, if it was slapped together, more slapped together, let's say, and it wasn't executed, like, it's the smallest things. It's crazy how it's the small little details, the bolts, the little bits of whatever, the polish, the contrast, whatever it is. That is what ties a car together for its overall impact, I think. And you can get away with your own personal touch. Obviously, you wanted that car to be out there.
So in the build process, I guess you've kind of taken on a bit of a project manager's kind of role in that, like you sort of alluded to before, now it's not just building a car, but you also need to schedule work. You need to schedule funds. Like there's all of this sort of stuff, and people that sort of work in projects on the mines or in logistics and stuff like that, that's obviously their bread and butter. But when you're building a tough street car, it's kind of not usually the done thing. How difficult was that to navigate, or how did you get your head around that sort of concept?
I think I've always been a planner and a list writer to a fault, you know, to list upon lists. And I think that...
Got a list of lists? You need an interior list and an exterior list?
I have in my notes in my iPhone, it's got so many things in there that I put that there, and it's... But doing that, I find if it's somewhere I can put it away out of my head and I can concentrate on other things.
Yeah.
So I like to write lists and where I'm going that day. And you know, you want to go to supply, you want to you're driving home, I just missed out on getting this. So I've always been sort of a planner, and that comes into play from, you know, just years of doing it, I suppose, and getting better at it and more effective at it, and re-looking at the plan. You know, the plan, the direction of where you're going to want to end up and how you're going to execute that. You know, funds required, time required, parts required.
Yeah, and lead times, you know, that's
lead
another
times.
big thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't know how long a dash is going to take to get chromed or whatever until you ring up where you hear, so they're taking 3 months and what? This car's going to go on a show tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, 9 months to get your dash redone. Fuck.
Yeah. And you know, you hear about that now, and someone else will learn from that. You know, so someone asks you, what was the hold up with you? Oh, bloody dash 9 months.
Oh, I better send that off now.
Yeah, they'll learn from that and they'll send it off and get it in the queue. There's a lot of unforeseen things. You know, you could have painted it matte black or whatever and got it in the car and got it finished, or left that to the last thing. And but I think the lists and the planning is something you got to learn to do. And it's not. You don't know. If you don't know what you don't know, you don't know it. And if you don't know the budget, there's so many cars and coffee events. You can walk up to someone that's got a car like yours and go, mate, everyone wants to talk about their cars. They love them. Yeah. How much you spend on this car? You know, people were pretty free with, it cost me, you know.
That's what you're going to be like anyway.
I'd rather not.
But maybe break it down into how much was the interior, what were your wheels, and you'll know the guy that's asking you that question. If he's like, how much you spend on that, mate? You know, you're going to not tell him. But
that's right. You've got, like you say, you pick your customer, you're going to get that one bloke be like, fuck, how much you spend on that? And then you tell them and they go, it's only a fucking Commodore. And, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's definitely like, it's something that I've struggled with. Obviously, this is sort of my first foray into this sort of build. So learning, I'm doing a lot of learning. What was the biggest, I guess, adjustment that you had to make on the fly during the build? Was there anything that you kind of had to compromise, or was it that sort of meticulously done that you nailed it at every point?
Which car?
I
mean,
particularly the HQ, but any of them.
They got better. You know, you get better at everything, and the HQ, I think, was, you know, deciding not to put a metal bonnet on it last minute and getting a fiberglass bonnet. We were painting that like a week out from the event and fitting it on around the blower because we had to cut it out and then making the brackets up. So that was a last minute, and then Steve took the bonnet away and did a spray. It had come and mark the stripes because I made a steel bonnet when we were doing the car, but I didn't want to cut that out and make the blower fit, so fiberglass one, and then making the mounts for that, and that had to come off at the show and sit down underneath the car. Because of the visual side of it, having a bonnet up and the blower, I went, well, why can't I just take the bonnet off and tuck it, then it makes this whole... Yeah. So that was a late model, late inclusion, but got it done. The rest of the thing was, I think, at the time you couldn't buy, or Millsies didn't have, no, it was Performance Unlimited, didn't have the polished fittings. Okay. So it was all blue and red fittings.
Were you stripping all the anodizing?
Yeah, with oven cleaner, and then buffing them all up, and then putting them on the car, you know, and then finding out that, hey, now they're all going,
dull.
What's the word? Yeah, they're all turning back to bloody white powder. You keep polishing them, you know, what have I done? Yeah. So there's things you learn as you go with that sort of stuff, and I think I wired it, you know, myself and run the wires and did all that, and it worked. And I think the pedal was another one that I wanted the pedal to come back through the firewall directly behind the blower instead of coming around. So I would make a pedal up, and then it was like, I haven't made a pedal up. And it was like, hey, this car's going to show. Showing to the dash bits of steel and tacking stuff together to try and work this mechanical thing out to go like that. Yeah. So that's a couple of things that I remember, you know, but the basics of it, I think getting the trimmer on board, getting the panel and paint guy on board, and Steve being flexible to come around and buff the car again after I'd sort of put it together, and having them, because those guys want to see you achieve good things, and I think they can see that, you know, you spend the money, you put the time and effort in, this car's going to be special. And the right guys you align yourself with will want to be on board and support you and be there at the last minute, those last minute things.
The right people will put a piece of themselves in the car.
Sure.
I feel like
all
every
my
car
cars,
that I work on, I feel like I'm somewhat of an owner of, like, you know, because, you know, we're all passionate about this stuff when you're working on cars. There's a piece of sort of everyone that has worked on it in there if you've got the right people.
We had, you know, we had a barbecue and stuff, and we had a few good mates coming around, and they had jobs. It was you know, this is when I was starting to get in that planning side. It was, I know Mick, I can give a fitter machinist like me, right? I can give him those jobs, and then I had all my trestles out, all my rare spares parts all lined out, chrome parts ready and stuff, and I'd go, Mick, these are your job lists, righto, mate? And I didn't have to think about it. You know, someone else I might go, can you give us a hand with the bumper, or can you guys do this? So it involved a lot of people, and Vanessa's cooking a barbecue and the kids are running around, and that's all part of it. That's all, you know, the good side of it that you remember.
Yeah, it's a very pragmatic approach, but I think sort of what I'm hearing, and not just in that particular instance, but other things you've spoken about as well, is that you've got a very strong background of leadership in business.
Yeah.
Which is obviously how you built a very successful business yourself, and then being able to build on other people's strengths. Like, say, you got your mate Mick and you've got Steve, and you've got your network of people, and you're really good at delegating effectively. I think that's probably a very important part of how that came together in the time frame that it did.
Yeah, I suppose I learnt the leadership part of it being, you know, us Dicker boys will talk like, you know, pretty confident sort of guys with race karts and done all the stuff, and you get a little bit of confidence that I can do things, I can win things and trophies and stuff, and okay, I can do these things. Put confidence in yourself, and then I think, you know, working in the business was an eye opener, and then I'm going to buy this business was a real eye opener. That really threw me into, I have to manage these people because my house is on the line, and I've got to, you know, so that really taught me a lot. Not
only is your house on the line, but they've got kids to feed as well.
Yeah.
You know, that's another thing. You start putting the weight of their world on your shoulders as well.
Yeah. I think that taught me in a short period of time, you know, how to treat people. I looked at how I was treated as well. My previous employer that I bought the place off, you know, buying Subway every couple of Fridays or something for the staff, and things that he did, you know, little bonuses and things that I take the ute the weekend and don't worry about putting fuel in. And those little things you went, you know, when I had the business, like, I'm going to make sure I give those things to my staff because I think it's the right thing to do if they're doing the right thing.
And
obviously.
You get it back in dividends so often.
You
really, you really do.
It's you've got to be generous with your time, and, you know, someone wants to knock off at 2 hours early. It's like, don't worry, right in the time sheet. You sure? Yeah, mate, off you go. You know, and that person comes in 15 minutes early every day anyway, so they're the right person to do it with. So I did learn the leadership through the business, and I did have business mentors. I had a good bank manager who was a good mate of mine, who's still a good mate. You know, and I approached him when I bought the business. Said, I don't think I can do this, and I said to him, you know, you want to come in with me? And he sat and he didn't say much, but he listened to me for a good half an hour. Going, well, tell me what you don't think you can do.
Yeah.
And then he stopped and he said, "You'll be right, mate. You got it." He said, "I'll come and check on you," and he did.
Back yourself.
Yeah, he did. He did. He got confidence, and I'll keep an eye on you. And a couple of years later, he was spewing, he didn't buy into it. But, you know, those things. So I think the leadership comes out, and a confidence in what you're trying to achieve, and that you know that car and your HQs really well, and playing with them for 10 years prior, and knew how things fitted, and, that's a tricky job, I will do that. Yeah. However, these jobs can be put on the board, and I can delegate them to people that have got trust in the car people that know what they're doing as well. You know, making brackets and stuff was always usually, I'll do that. I'll fabricate and make that because I know what I want. Because you make a custom piece.
You might be like a lot of people where someone does something and no, I don't like that. But no, do it again.
And having said that, when I had the speed shop, you know, you couldn't do everything. So you'd go to your staff. This is the problem we've got. What do you think? And, you know, a lot of the time their idea was better than mine. So I'm going to do this. Oh, that's great. Off you go, mate. I'm happy with that. Or, hey, why don't you do that? Oh, that's the way I want it done. Okay. So I suppose the confidence to give people
a
direction,
bit of free rein,
ownership of what they're doing. And the people, like you said before, people buy into the car. And I felt guilty selling cars because, you know, I'm selling a car. But you think about it, you go, these guys, blood, sweat and tears. I helped Dicker out on a Friday night. You know, he bought me $6 pizza have helped him in his car. But my mates aren't like that, and they've wanted to be a part of what I'm doing and go along for the ride. It's not about the pizza.
Yeah.
It's
about the core memories that you make along the way, right?
Absolutely, yeah. That's what I tend to, when I think about cars, I think about the people I'm associated with, the businesses I'm associated with when I build it, because you can't do them yourself.
No.
You just, you can.
Yeah,
but,
it just takes forever. Like we've done ours more or less ourselves, really, haven't we? And I'm like one of those people that when you get to a task that's not super sexy, which is fucking millions of tasks that aren't super sexy, and it's like, I'm not going to do that right now, I'm going to do something else. And then that's how months and years go by without shit getting done, because you just don't just get in and get it done, you know? So
that's okay though, because if you've got other jobs, you know, I'm doing a 327 at the moment, and there's an oil pump mod I do to put a little bracket on, because the pickup on the side of them, they knock in. And we had a car in a speed shop. He shut it off early enough, and sure enough, we turned the engine upside down, it had rattle, pulled the sump off, and the pickup's on the ground.
Yeah.
So we made a little bracket, and I made this bracket. I had to make this bracket, and I had to drill and, you know, muck around with it. And I had the oil pump apart, and I had to do it, and I had other stuff to do anyway, and I was procrastinating about it. And I was just like, I'm not fucking doing it now. And I put it aside, and I left it somewhere I could see it. So I was walking past it, and I was like, yeah, when I'm dirty doing stuff and I want to go grind, and I'll do it. And then that happened and I didn't do it. And I was like, okay, I don't need it done today on that engine. So it sat there. And then the time was right. It was like, under that oil pump bracket.
Because you felt like it.
Felt like doing it, and I wanted to do it. And it'd been in my mind, but it wasn't, I have to do it anymore.
You always feel so good after, hey? This is like,
I should have done it
man, we're
2
only
days ago.
mid-30s. Like, we're mid-30s, and you're still just learning how your brain works. I feel like I'm only fucking just starting to figure out how this thing works. If you just, it's shit to get stuck into it, but once you get in and get it done, you're like, fuck, why didn't I do that before?
2
Like,
days
the
earlier.
satisfaction you can get out of a shitty task.
Yeah. I've
So
done
like,
it, done
you
it
just
10
get
times.
in and do it, eh?
I've done it 10 times before. I know what I'm doing. It takes bloody 15 minutes and it's done. It's just, and now it's done and it's sitting there. Now it's all sitting there waiting for me to put it together. I've gone, I'll do that later.
Yeah.
Again.
So on that topic, is there anything when you're building a car front to back, is there anything you really don't like doing, like at all, just period? Like, it sounds like you do most stuff. Like, you can do most stuff.
I don't like wiring.
I was going to say, it's got to be wiring. Everyone hates
But he said he wired before, so I wasn't sure. I was like,
I have done it. And I think if I can get my head around it and no one's around me, I can do it, and I can do it well. But it's one of those things that I've got a good guy manager at Kirky Customs, who's so good at it, and it's just not worth me doing it. I can delegate to him and go, mate, send me the bill, and he's got things thought about before. It's not my forte. I'm not a wirer.
And this is something else. It's like sometimes the dollars spent, although there is a reward in doing it yourself, in that you learn the new skill or you get that gratification, but sometimes the dollars spent with someone who knows what they're doing, which then frees you up to do something that you're good at, so worth it.
Oh, it's so definitely worth it if you can do it, for sure. And not to mention, if they're your friend, you're always everyone's happy to support their friends anywe, you know, like even if you can do it, like I still do it now, like I'm quite capable of servicing my cars, but I've got mates that have shops, so I'll just send it in, and rather than rip a project off the lift or whatever, fucking go and give it to Cam or Corey or whoever, and they,
do the oil and filters, boys.
Sort it out.
You know what I mean? You just sort of support the ecosystem a little bit, and it's something that you don't really enjoy doing anyway. So
So then you can do the sexy bits.
Yeah.
I have learnt a lot off him in the way, you know, it's so important to have every sensor, every fitting. Is it all there? You know, don't come back. You want something else, but he'd put redundant wiring in. There'd be more wiring going to the front and back, and you go, "What's that for?" That's 5 wires in case you want to put nitrous bottle heater in back, and it's at this rate.
I'll never do that. And then 12 months later, fuck,
where's that wiring?
Nitrous on it.
This all sounds exactly like Jaden with when we wired my car, and just working in with him, we've become pretty good friends. He's an auto electrician, and it's just a wealth of knowledge, and I'm the same. I'd just rather. Like, I'm interested in it, but at the same time, I also glaze over. You lose me for a bit, so it's sort of like, I kind of want to know enough to be dangerous, so if you need to diagnose or something like that, especially on my own car, I don't ever want to not know it's like have a pretty rough idea what something might be or where it is or what to check, you know. So I don't know. It's cool to have clever friends anyway that are willing to help out. It's the best thing, honestly.
You don't want to be that bloke that come 5 o'clock on a Saturday doesn't know how to race car. You know, like you want to be able to, like say, know enough to be dangerous, can bridge this over here and get you out of the shit.
Yeah,
you know?
or at least sort of have an idea to ask someone rather than just nothing.
You can self-diagnose what fuel pump working. No, just touching on, you know, Holly FI systems, and you guys have got some of that wiring in the, you know, size of the wiring, the fuses, and those technical things which are auto Sparky knows. Those things I don't know, so you just don't experience it. So it's like for what it's doing, I need it to be right. It's management of my computer. It needs to be earths and all those things need to be. I can do it, but I can read the instructions, but I want it done that way.
And
I think
how many high dollar cars have burnt to the ground because they used an inferior wire or too small a wire, or they weren't crimped properly, or they, you know, used the wrong plug application.
Sometimes things just don't crimp right. Sometimes shit actually just does happen.
Yeah.
Wiring is probably, like, gremlins have got to be the worst.
Yeah, it's always an earth.
Like, just going off, I use the example of like the ZF on my Falcon that kept fucking up. Like, I thought it was mechanical because I'm just mechanically. So I'm thinking, new transmission, converter, blah blah blah. Nah, you know.
The PCM
and then we're like changing coils and all this stuff, and no one, like, there's no just hard fast rule of this is what it is. So when you're trying to diagnose an electrical problem, it's a fucking nightmare. And if you've got like a super expensive engine that you can't afford to replace, and you're getting dodgy injectors that are working and they're not working, or filling up cylinders with fuel, and you're bending con rods or knocking the edges off of pistons, like that'll make a bloke sell a car or just fucking give up quick smart. So that's another avenue right there. It's like, no, I know it's done properly, and I don't need to worry about torching my $40,000 engine or what have you.
It's cheap insurance, I think the other thing's panel and paint. I just don't have the patience.
Yeah, so you don't do any of that?
No, I tried doing it on a HQ years and years ago, and it took me all day to do a lower guard section because I dicked around and filled and filed and filled and filed. It looked really good, but it just, I wanted to try it, and I just went, fuck that, I'm not doing that shit anymore. I need to see, I need to see progress immediately, and the work that goes into do a good panel and paint job on a car. I'd like to think, and a mate of mine asked me a while ago, he said, why don't you, one of my other cars, why don't you have a go at panel and paint that? I was like, I know how to do that. And I sort of looked at it and think, I know enough about it. I'd like to give it a go, but, it's just still not, doesn't sit well with me.
The worst thing is the fucking mess. In your shed. That's the thing that turns me off the most. I think I am going to do my car because I feel like it's something that I want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm the opposite. I'm a fluffer. Like, I'll fluff around and fuck around, and I want things to look mint. And I know that I'm probably not going to want to pay the money to get it as good as what I would want because I'm real picky.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely going to need some pointers because you can just go in circles. We did the roof. It turned out like good for what it was.
Bay.
It's just a mess. That's the thing. It's like, I don't actually want to go and do that because it's going to fuck up the whole area. I kind of would want a shed specifically just for that.
Yeah.
Because it's like...
Go get a 3-month lease.
Yeah, someone's unit. Yeah.
Fuck that one up.
Yeah.
Keep my bond, brother.
Yeah, so, that makes sense. And that's pretty standard for a lot of guys mucking around with cars. Not a lot of people really want to do the panel and paint stuff, I feel like.
Yeah.
But it's getting to that point where it is getting hard to find good guys, and it's getting super expensive. All the products have gone up like a crazy amount, like 2, 3, 4x or whatever. And obviously these guys... Young guys aren't getting into apprenticeships and stuff. I'm a bit of a tangent here, but even in my trade and fitters and everything as well, and I'm sure painters are the same, there isn't the new blood isn't coming in like it was 15 years ago. So the guy that's hanging in there, he's not getting replaced. So
and the stories you hear from the old bar flies as well is that these young blokes don't want to fucking work and this and that, and because of that, they don't want to pass on their knowledge either. They don't want to instill their knowledge in someone that's not going to do anything with it, which means it dies with them.
Well, the kids just aren't there.
Yeah.
They're honestly just not there.
Yeah.
So
they're there, but they're rare.
Yeah, they are. Like, if you find a good young dude, like, when you meet one, you're like, you know, like they are hot property now. Like you could sort of, the world's your oyster if you're a young fella and you got a bit of heart and you're going to have a crack. So.
If you want to work at it, you want to learn it. And there's a lot of new technology in painting nowadays, and I think processes, and there's a lot of stuff involved with it.
It's definitely getting easier. You're right.
Yeah.
I want to talk about just something I picked on before, and before we start moving towards like guest questions and things like that. But you've sort of mentioned that right from the start, you've had for each of your projects, you've had a vision. You know, you've had this vision in your mind of exactly the intricate details of how you know you're going to have the XW stripe on the sandbar, and how you're going to work the cage into the diff on the ute. And, you know, things like that. Where does that vision come from? Is there something, say, a member of your family or something that you did as a kid? Like, is there someone that's an artist or anything in the family that sort of instilled that sort of influence in you? Or is there, can you think of anything that sort of gave you that? Or is that something that you've just had?
I think when you can't sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning, you start thinking about cars and all the crazy ideas to try and put yourself to sleep. I don't know. It's my mum's quite artistic and creative. But I don't know, I don't know where it comes from. It's just a lot of probably processing things that other people have done.
I was about to say,
and
obsession.
Yeah,
you're obsessed, because we're all the same. We're all the same people. You get obsessed. You're obsessed with cars, so you're reading every street machine. And now the internet's around, you can just spend your entire day, every second, just engulfing yourself with pictures, videos, tutorials, everything, which is what I find myself doing a lot. So you know what I mean? You've just got so much information that what else can you do? Of course your brain's going to think of, you're just going to grab this and grab that and grab this and grab that, whichever dopamine sort of flush you got. Yep, I like that. I'm sure that's how my brain works, and I'm sure yours is probably the same. Yeah,
I tend to go too far sometimes. I'll really push ideas of what can I do with this? How can I make it different? To push myself, I think, to every build has always been, well, I've done that. What can I do now that's going to challenge me? What's going to make me want to get up and go out and spend the time, but all that money as well. Yeah. It's got to be enough to want to go and do it, to achieve it and finish it. It's got to be something special. I can't go and build another HQ Coupe, silver and orange stripes, and put a small block in it again. In fact, when I sold that car, one of the reasons was because I couldn't see it licensed without the blower on it as a normal bonnet on it, and I just didn't want to drive it, didn't want to have the car, so I got it licensed and sold it. So it's that vision from the start was a blown car, and that was it. So the other cars, the vision is quite experimental, and I suppose the last car I built, the HQ 4-door with the graphics on it, there was a lot of things I didn't do on that I sort of thought I wanted to do, but in the time frame they weren't going to fit, and they were a bit out there. But I still went, you know, if I'm going to build this car, I want to do this and I want to do that, and what can I do and how can I do it? And I suppose it's just a question of pushing yourself, I suppose.
Yeah, just trying to
something
push
different,
the envelope.
and be a little bit different, and yeah, just not do something that's been done before. Because you've seen, you know, there's another black LS with a blower on it in a Commodore. I don't mean like that, boys, but you know, it's like they're really well done. It can be done, you know, like you say. You see it on the internet where you see the photo and you go, well, nicely done, but you go and see it up close and you go, wow, this guy's right, he's done that, right, that's all these parts. Yeah. That's killer. That's been really, really well done. The whole overall picture is that again. You know, would it be better if it was all polished? Well, that's all been done. Yeah. So what could I do if I wanted to do that? You know, I'll look at it and go, well,
where's my point of difference?
Yeah, where's something that's going to be different if I want to achieve trophies or notoriety or magazine cover, or you know, people to go, wow, or oh, you're a dickhead. Yeah. What do I want out of this build? Yeah. This is just what I want to do. You know, and is that enough that when I achieve that, is that going to be enough that I've put this time and effort into it that was worth it? Yeah. It's got to be that. Yeah. And you might think, oh, you built all these cars and sold them, you didn't like them, you didn't want them. No, I achieved what I wanted, but I didn't see past having that car, and I'll evolve into that, and I'll evolve into that. And that was not part of my evolution, because that car I would have thought about there, and that car would have taken 10 years. It would have already had tubs and all these crazy things. It had to be there. So going further, it never would have got finished. And you got to pull in and say, this is what I want to achieve. This is going to be acceptable. It's just saleable. It's usable. It's going to meet the end goals. Yeah. And this is where I'm pulling up. You know?
Because you've got to get your money back and go again, don't you?
For me, money back was not.
Not all your money back, but you know what I mean. Like you're doing what you want to do, you get out of it what you want, and then it's like it feels like it's like, rightio, I want to go down this path now. I want to do this thing.
Yeah, you can't keep them all. You got to liquidate one, start the next one.
Yeah. I'm a bit of a scatterbrain. Everyone knows that. Tell me, mates, I want to build this and put that in that. Oh, what are you doing that for?
You just hit the one. One of them will hit. You throw it at the wall and it will stick, and you're like, rightio, let's do that.
Yeah.
So speaking of that. Have you got anything else on the horizon? Because what if you don't have anything really like big show cars or anything right now? You're sort of sitting here twiddling thumbs, kind of, or
what's your next big project?
Well, I've got a HK GDS Monaro. I'm trying to finish it.
One of my favourites.
Yeah, I'm trying to finish that off. It got painted 10 years ago. The other day, it was 10 years ago. It came up on my Facebook memories bloody thing, and that's a full restoration. Not concourse, but as close as I can get it. And that's painful. It's easier to build a custom car
I'm not
than
going to like concourse restorations back to standard. I appreciate it for real, and I like it, but it's just for me, it's not my jam. But I do, it's all there. It's good, but it's hard work.
Yeah, I didn't have the motivation to finish it. I've always been collecting parts, dash taking so long, and I'll send that away. And these things are always ticking over in the background. And I've collected all the bits for it. I've just got to build the motor and get a motor up now. And I've got to finish. I want to finish that. I feel now I'm not burdened with the business and the speed shop and stuff. I actually feel myself going, this is achievable now. Yeah. And I want to go out in the shed and I want to work on that and I want to look at the parts and I want to see what I need, and next time I go here I'll pick those bits up and I can start putting that planning part of it together to finish that car off.
There's a feeling of like now that you've sort of moved to, let's call it like a next chapter in your life, that you're sort of reinvigorated?
I'm glad you didn't say retirement.
No.
Yeah. No. For sure. Yeah, it's my wife says, you're a lot happier. You're less grumpy, I think the word was. Just because you don't have that pressure in the back of your head of, like we said before about mortgages and families and bank loans and all that stuff. So now it's time I can actually don't think about that. I can think what I want to do with my budget and my time. And I've got an XY Falcon that Dad's had since '76 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
I've just had the rims polished on that, new tyres, and lowered the back of it, and had it painted a few bits and pieces, and got that to a stage where it's cars and coffee car,
Yeah, beautiful.
Start cruising around that. So I've been working on my HK Kingswood. I'm going to take that over the pits next week, and that's just a stocky car, but that's going to be, between my brother and myself, is going to be a drag challenge car.
Oh, excellent.
Yes.
So we've been looking at it for a lot of years, and I've got the car. He's got a small block and a gearbox and a diff out of something else. And we've got my mate's rotisserie coming in about 3 weeks' time, and him and I have been planning. He's a planner for Woodside,
Oh, wow.
mechanical superintendent. So between him and I, it's back and forward, this thing, add this to the list and these dates.
You got the Gantt chart up in the bloody shed, don't you?
Mate, it's going to be on, and the thing is that we just went across the Nullarbor together and dragged the car back. So we had a lot of time, and I think we built 3 motor combos and 4 cars in the whole time talking about.
So have you nailed one down yet or not?
Yeah, we have.
So what's the combos going to be?
We're putting a 4L80 in it. So we've got the overdrive, that's a must. Tubbing to the rails, that's an easy thing. Rotisserie, flip it up, do those things on it. Harness mounts. And we're going to start with just a real mild small block Chev, because we know I can build them, they're easy. We've got a set of some alley heads there and some basic sort of stuff to put something together that it'll run 1150 or something like that. Yeah. And we're sort of like, with overdrive, we can put some gears in it, get a converter and set that up as it's just a green Kingswood, and put a set of killer wheels on it. And we want to tow that across, and we want to get two of our good mates, which know each other, get them to come across and have that, that
boys
whole
weekend.
thing.
Or boys week,
Bro down, yeah.
And I think if he's, wants to progress with, putting another motor in it later, it's going to have the rest of the cars there, apart from a cage and stuff, to go the next step. But we just didn't want to go across and be playing with, changing too much stuff and being running 9s and 8s. We just wanted to go across and experience it. And we were going to go across this year and actually do like a reconnaissance mission, go and follow, get a hire car, follow and see what's going on to find a bit out. But that's not going to work in our schedule. And we were nearly going to build this car for this year as well.
Oh, wow.
Which was I was like, mate, I've got time, but I'm not going to spend.
You're taking the piss a little bit.
I've got time, but I've also got to fucking sleep.
My name's not fucking Aiden Stampalia, mate.
We could have done it, but it just didn't line up with the scheduling and stuff. So we've given ourselves, and I said, you need to run this car. It needs to go down the track. You can't take it over there without having some passes shake down the thing, that sort of stuff. So I'm working on that. And I've got a 57 Chev Bel Air Sport Coupe.
Oh.
So that's just had full floor, tub to the rails, flat firewall with a recess in it. And that's already been engineered for, 307, turbo 350, four-link 9-inch, power steering, disc brakes and stuff. So that's been already approved for that sort of stuff. So that's in the pipeline to do. And there's other cars.
There's plenty.
I was going to say, what else is in there?
Here I was thinking he was ready to grab something else out of the paddock. You got plenty to bloody keep yourself busy with.
Yeah. I got to finish HCAF. That's a bit of a priority sort of thing to finish that, because it's
they're a beautiful car. One of my favourites of all time, HKs.
Yeah, Dad had one, and that's what made me buy. Dad had one when he was younger, and it's same silver mint red interior, and I found it down in Esperance and bought it like 25 years ago now, when they were worth, paid $4,500 for it, GDS 307, but it was white and it needed a heap of work doing to it and stuff. And then that progressed over the years, and it was going to, just build it really stock and original and put like a 400 and power glide in it, and it's a power glide anyway, and just have it as a nice cruiser car. But I think I've done too much to it, too nice, that the value of them is too much now. That's a real problem, because they, it's worth that much money. I don't really want to drive it.
I was going to say, it takes the fun out of it, doesn't it?
It'd be too stressful.
Yeah.
I've got a 400 metre gravel driveway, and you don't want to be tilt training it to the front of your house to not drive on the gravel driveway.
Just driving around and how just blasé a lot of people are on the road these days. That'd be my concern, is just getting hit, more or less, because you can control what you're doing, and you drive well, whatever. But it's when there's some muppet that's on their phone or off their face on drugs or whatever.
You're stressing out driving it. It really,
It kind of used to be the argument for motorbike riders in the day. It's like, you don't have to be worried about you crashing, it's someone crashing into you. And even though a car will protect you, but these cars are worth more than some people's houses.
Yeah.
It's something.
And it's the thing bits. It's like, even if, say, you just have a bit of a bingle, it's not like you're just going to go and find another door.
No,
or it's not like you can just get another rear quarter panel. Like these things are just, it's impossible almost.
Fuel tanks, GDS 327 fuel tanks, $5,000-$6,000.
Unreal.
$5,000 for a carby, not for my model, but $5,000 for the proper date coded carby, if you want to go that far with them.
I remember when my mate Brad Gardner, he had a HK Bathurst, and he said that there's 3 different brake master cylinders for a HK, but the one that's on a Bathurst, if you want that one, it's like $1,850 instead of $50 for the other one. It's crazy.
And if you want that level of restoration, that's what you do, and your peers will see what you've done and can appreciate that, or you want to do that, that's great. It's another different level of looking at parts and restoring parts, and they were acrylic and they weren't that good from the factory, the gaps and all that. So mine's gapped, and dead straight, And it's like, well, my brother made a good point. He said, they never like that from the factory. I was like, but I can't not
No.
leave it in
if
two
we're
back
doing
and
it, we're doing it.
putting
Hey.
gaps in, you know, it's gonna you gotta do that sort of stuff. So that will fund a few more. I'll sell that. That'll fund the rest of my other cars, you know, because it doesn't come out of thin air anymore. Not having a business to support things, you know. The time's there. My time's there. The cars are there, but the cash is not.
Yeah, and honestly, even in the last 5 years, I feel like the amount of money of everything has gone up like almost exponentially compared, like, you know, let's call it COVID times. That's what it really was. Like, since then, really, it's just gotten out of control. I still find myself now, you buy something little or a few things, you're like, fucking hell, like, it just adds up quick, you know.
Even
like
just a basket of groceries, you know. Like,
It's
like you go to the Coles and you walk out $120 lighter, and all you feel like you got is a packet of chips and a knob of butter, and you're going, fuck.
No, it's hard work for sure. So that's why it's good if you can do a lot of stuff yourself as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So the business is no more. You've sort of handed that on, but you've said you're not in retirement. What else is sort of in the pipeline for you? Have you got any other than the hobby stuff? Is there anything else that you're sort of working on, or?
Oh, just my cars. You know, just playing them, and you know, a couple of old motocross bikes I'd like to restore one day, and you know, I've got a 671 blower I want to machine up and do the clearances and that. There's little things I want to do. I actually found the windmill on our property. The bloke next door had it, and it's the original one that's been there, you know, since 1952 or something.
Yeah.
All the legs are broken off. But I see that, and I want to pull that apart, and I want to find out how it works. You know, I want to restore it, not, you know, sandblast, panel and paint.
Just get it back working.
I want to get it back working.
Let's get this in chrome. Fuck it.
Yeah.
That's where you've got to learn.
Have you ever mini-tubbed a windmill before?
We want to get some bigger blades on this thing. I'm going to put some extra angle on them.
No, that's where you got to come back and go, what's the angle I'm doing here? What am I trying to achieve? But I'd like to see it back in the paddock where it stood for all those years, spinning around.
A bit of nostalgia.
Not painted or anything, just like rusty. But
Right.
So there's little jobs like that I want to do, and there's I've got a couple of other engines I want to build, and I've got nothing to put them in, but just stuff to play around with. There's always something to do.
Just the nice to haves, you know.
There's stuff that I've still got left over from the shop that I was looking through the other day, and there's a set of forged, pistons for a 355 combo sitting there. You know, I was like, I must have bought them for someone, and rings there, and I was like, there's a set of rods over there. And if I get a block,
we'll speak about that later.
It just goes on.
I know a guy that needs a set of forgies.
Awesome. This has been a great chat, mate. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Before we wrap things up, though, as you would know, being a listener, we've got our guest questions, which we ask everybody. So, because you've heard them before, you might even have some answers. Or am I still taking you by surprise?
I'll see.
Just got to find them first. When did I open them last? Here they are. Righto. First one. Have you ever lost your license? And is there a bit of a story attached to it?
No, but I should have.
You should have. Bit of a close call. Tell us about it.
P-plater, 1989.
Good
HQ
year.
Statesman,
I was
308.
one.
It was me P-plates, had me good mate Michael. We just been to a concert at the Perth Entertainment Centre back in those days. It was a wet road. I was going somewhere. I pulled around the corner and I just let go. Single pegger, just howled this thing in my HQ Statesman. Got about 200 metres and the blue and red lights are behind me.
Oh, berries and cherries.
And I'd only had my licence like a couple of months. And this bloke come and he was, I respect him a lot more now what he said, because I understand, but he was like, get out the car and you've lost your licence and you lose your car. And it was like just really nearly in the chest. And I was like, and I turned around to Mick and I'm like, fuck, I'm only at work. And realise this sort of stuff,
Yeah.
And then I sort of stood there and he went back to the car and he came out the front and he goes, look, he said, us guys hate scraping you guys off the side of the road when you fuck up and do stupid shit in cars like this. And he hammered it home and he just said, you go home and you have a good think about things. And I got in the car, mate, and I was shaking. I was like, on this left indicator.
Mum's going to fucking kill me.
Oh, just, when you realise,
Because you don't think, hey, you just don't.
Oh, mate, the first night I got my licence, like Dad's like, keep your bloody foot out of it. Like the second intersection, I'm like, just smoking up because that's what.
That's what you do.
My uncle did, and my dad had stories of burning tyres out before he'd even paid off the other sets, and you know, there's a time and place.
You haven't been around long enough to fuck up to realise that you can fuck up, hey?
Well,
really?
When there's been no consequence, there's no consequence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it can be, and there's been several other times that I've been not lose my licence, but let off pretty good. I think I've got a good way of, you know, looking pretty guilty.
Yeah. Well, and
yes, sir.
I think
that's the old tail between the legs.
Yeah. If you fail the attitude test, you're going to cop the long dick of the law. But if you sort of hands up, look, I fucked up.
Yeah.
Mate. You know, like you can probably.
That's gotten me out of shit a couple of times.
You can earn yourself a lot of discretion, I think.
And I think respect. I've always said yes, sir. I've always treated them with that authority that, you know, they deserve, and in that situation, yes sir, no sir, and being honest with them, and they've
that's something I think that we lack in Australia, is that that sort of level of respect for your elders. Like you listen to, say, Americans, when they speak to one of their elders, it's always yes sir or yes ma'am. You know, like there's like you say, there is certainly that level of respect that's there. I find myself doing it. I don't know. I think it was just instilled for me from probably my granddad, actually. But like you say, I think having that, you only get one chance at a first impression.
Time,
you only get one shot at a first impression, and the first impression is you did a skid, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you're on the back foot already. However, when you're face to face, the way that you have a reaction there is going to set the tone.
Yeah.
I think
you just got to own it, eh? At the end of the day, like if you know you fucked up,
own it.
You've just got to own it.
Oh, if I had an attitude, that would have been all over,
Yeah.
and understandably. But I must have been visibly, you know, like shitting myself, and that was he wanted to put that across, and he got it across, and fair point. It did, you know. I really thought about that, but then I actually spun the car out and hit a pole about 2 years later and rode it off. But
good.
in the wet. Yeah.
Well done.
Oh well. On that note.
Yeah. Lessons learned, eh?
Yeah.
Which car was the one that got away? That's either one that you regret selling or the one that you missed out on buying.
How many? V and Group A.
Yeah, that would be one.
I had one of them for a while. Had 38,000 Ks on it. Flew over to Brisbane, got in it. I remember sitting my arm on the armrest and the bloke looking through the window going, I never put my arm on the armrest. Like, don't put...
Yeah,
you know,
don't put an elbow mark in it.
And it's pissed now, right? He goes, "You're going to drive this?" I'm like, "Yeah, mate. Driving." I never drive in the rain, you know. 38,000 Ks on it. So we went up the Glasshouse Mountains or something and cruising around, pissing our rain. And
wow.
That was a really nice car. And I sold it, but you always sell because you're buying another car, you're doing this or something else. So that's probably... I wouldn't want it now. I'd want it now because they're worth so much money. But if I had it now... it wouldn't faze me, but it's sort of one I look back on instinctively and think about. The other one was a GTO LE. I bought that brand new, the red with the white stripes on it. It was one of 25, and I'd done...
We know where there's a grey one.
Oh, yeah, the
Warp's
colour.
one. Warby's got one, yeah.
I think I sold it, had done 8 or 9,000 Ks on it. I should have used that more.
Yeah.
But... Yeah.
They're a beautiful car. Like, really I'm not a... I mean, I like the late model stuff, but I like the earlier model stuff more. But the GT, like the two-door stuff of that era is
nice
particularly beautiful. Like, they're sexy.
Especially if you go on with like the VY dash, because that's a bit nicer.
The LEs, I actually probably would have an LE over even the VZ sort of one. I kind of like. I like the Warby's one's beautiful.
6-speed. It was a nice car.
They were good cars.
Those 2 Commodores, boys.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I'm not lying. When you said the first Commodore, I was like, really? Okay.
Yeah.
We've gone through a pretty star-studded list, and you picked that one.
There's lots.
Yeah.
You can't keep them all.
What's one tool that you couldn't live without?
Probably my verniers.
Ah, yeah.
They're my Tranuma rules. My verniers. They just.
Do you have a gauge or do you run digis?
No, just the normal.
Yeah, just a slide. Yeah.
Yeah, just a normal slide. I've just got a couple of pairs of them lying around the shed, and that's,
rightio.
want to measure something, I just use them. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, that'd be.
Yeah.
That's my go-to thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you have to pair them with a set of micrometers, being the sort of tradesman that you are, or not really?
For the finer, obviously for the finer stuff, I've got all
Yep.
that. If I need to measure a shaft or something,
Sure.
I'll pull it out and measure it to get it dead accurate. But for vent,
Your bread and butter's the verniers.
yeah, if I wanted to know how big that was, I wouldn't put a
See, I'm a
ruler on it.
boilie, so I just got a tape measure. Like within a mill's good enough for me.
Yeah. Well, when you're talking shit that's like 1 inch and 3/4, then a mill's fuck all.
Yeah. Within a couple of mils, fine, mate.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I heard it was 10 with boiler majors.
No.
Things have progressed.
Hey, if it looks good by the eye, it's good, man.
Yeah,
eh?
if the socket fits.
Honestly, if it doesn't look good by eye, it's no good, eh?
Yeah. And honestly, that's, I don't know if you've picked up from our videos or whatever, but that's pretty much how all the shit gets built in Kurtz.
On cars, cars is different.
It's not a measurement thing. It's literally just stick it on there, you stand back and go, that just doesn't quite hit right. Just edge a bit more.
The eye never lies.
Yeah, that's right. What's your favourite power adder? Or the caveat to that is, are you more of an aspirated fiend?
Nitrous, I think.
Nitrous?
Yeah.
Nitrous is the
You guys
sexiest way to
went
go
along good,
fast.
eh?
Yeah, nitrous is the sexiest way to go fast, I reckon.
Yeah, I've fitted a couple of kits to cars and driven them, and it just wakes them up. It's just it's a sweet sensation to quote running on empty. It's just it's not very visual. It's not very. It's chemical. So it's ooh
Science.
Yeah, it's not this.
And the way the tone of the engine changes, it's hard to explain, and you look like a fuckhead if you try and do it by making the noise. But I've been in a super tough small block Ford with like a good hit of nitrous, and it was fantastic. So good. I was like, this was my first time, and I haven't been in anything since, and I thought this is great.
Yeah, because blower cars hit, right?
Yeah,
turbo
boost.
cars have got their own sort of unique like whoosh to them, and that's also exceptionally impressive. But I don't know, there's something about nitrous in there.
Yeah, we drove a 308 Monaro, and he didn't want to drive it, and I jumped in it going to the main road, and we armed the kit and purged it and flicked it on, and the thing just stood up like nothing. It just hauled ass. The poor old TAs are screaming on the back of it, shifting gears, and it was the note. That was the biggest thing I noticed was the nose up so high, and the engine note. Just expensive.
It's like they're possessed, right?
Yeah, you're doing unnatural things to them. It's like, what's going on here?
Yeah, for sure. Street car or race car?
A street car.
Yeah. Any particular reason?
I don't have a race type that I like enough.
Oh yeah.
Collie being
Like
in our backyard,
yeah.
I thought about to buy a car and do that and do something because it's there and go racing. So racing is a street car can be. I'm going for a cruise with me and my mates. No one by myself. You can all use it.
Yeah.
Race car is very personal. It's very and if you want to go and achieve things, that's fair enough. But I've raced a sprint car, so I've had the racing side of it in that.
Yeah.
And it's quite selfish. You're the one that gets the good fun and the rest of it, and then everyone else is.
And you've still got all your same mates helping do all the stuff.
Oh, for sure. They enjoy coming along and helping you, participating, and they get a buzz out of it. You're the one that sort of gets that little bit of cream on top. So it's a sort of for me, it's a bit of a selfish sort of sport at the moment.
It's an interesting way of looking at it too, because you say, not race car because I don't have that one thing. And that's kind of a thing that people forget, is that when you build a car to race, you need to build a car to fit a certain set of rules, right? Otherwise, what's the point of doing it, right? If it's going to be competitive, it's got to fit in this box, and it's got to be really good at just doing that.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got a street car, you've got a lot of flexibility in that, I can take it to the street meet, or I can try a drift day, or I can just do some hot laps on the track.
Roll racing or motivation and power cruise. You can utilise it for so many cars and coffee events and club cruises and stuff nowadays. There's more versatility in it, and it's all about miles per kilometre of how much usage you get out of it.
I've never really thought about it that way. It's a pretty interesting perspective. What is your ultimate form of motorsport if you were to pick one?
Sprint car racing.
Yeah?
It's Oh, mate, it's
Something about the clay.
Oh, it's,
when you think about like what sprint cars are these days, they're making correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure they're making like 900, 1,000 horsepower out of those 410s.
Yeah.
And
direct drive.
they're just like to the wood. Like
Yeah.
that would be an experience that you would pay money to go to experience. I think that'd be fear followed by relief. I think for the uninitiated, but yeah, that'd be real.
Yeah.
Really cool.
If the budget was there and the body was a lot younger, the time's there, but it's a lot of work in preparation and cleaning them and tidying them and doing all the work on them.
You just want to roll up and drive it and then fuck off, eh?
On a good prep track,
Yeah. Because if something goes wrong in a sprint car, it goes wrong bad.
That is true too.
Your senses are so heightened.
Yeah.
You know, even at 2 o'clock in the morning driving back in the truck, everyone's asleep. You're wired. You're like, and you are full on. It takes you a while to get to sleep because it's sort of a late charge. It comes on later and you're driving home and you're trying to go to sleep and you're race the sprint car.
You can't just turn it off.
No,
you know, your body doesn't just clock out.
I'm going to bed.
Adrenaline's just clocking out for his shift. Catch you later, cunt. I'm out of here. No, that's not how it works. No. He's going to linger around. He's going to have a few beers and he just won't fuck off.
The missus is turning the light off, going, come to bed, you stupid.
He will not leave.
I think sprint car racing, and I still go and watch it and stuff. It's just to turn left. The vehicles have been built over 30 years to do 40 years to do that, and they're the F1 of sort of things, you know, and unpredictability of it as well.
And that's the amazing thing of how technology's advanced in motorsport over the years, is that the data acquisition and the way that they interpret the data and everything to really hone in on not just the 1%ers, but the 0.1% of making, say, a car that's just designed to turn left, do that at the most optimal way possible. It's wild, isn't
There's no data acquisition on cars when you're racing. Guys have put Motex and stuff on them and done test days, but when you're out there, it's just...
You're not allowed to have it, all that stuff. No. They're all...
But someone's done the research and design, right?
Yeah. They're all like mechanically injected and everything, aren't they?
Mechanical injection, There's just a couple of glow gauges and your MSD spark box and an on switch. Fuel pressure on.
That's probably what's the beauty about...
They're raw.
That, you know what I mean?
Absolutely raw.
That's... We need to get back away from that. I don't think we will with some motorsports. I think it's just going to... And it's something that I think about quite often we talk about AI and just technology in general. I honestly do think we'll get to a point where it's going to take all the fun out of it because everyone will be on the same sort of playing field. So your little bit of niche or whatever, your knowledge, eventually that's all going to go away. And everyone's going to be doing 6.0s with this particular combo or whatever lap times or whatever. So it's good to get back to the raw and have the driver. You know what I mean? I quite like that.
Yeah. The unpredictability of you know, having when you're lining up for the start and there's 3 guys in front of you and there's 4 or 5 behind you, and how loose everything is and how there's not, you know, there's a lane here and there's a lane here.
Yeah, because with dirt, the track is changing constantly.
All the time.
I like following motocross and supercross, so that's one good thing about that is that the track's always changing. So it's the same thing. The rider is the guy. Like it doesn't matter about the bike. It's the rider is way more than 50%. Whereas a lot of tarmac type sports, the machine and the team are like massive.
Yeah, data acquisition. When you're looking through a thing like this and you've got wings and you've got limited, you can't see your front wheels and stuff. Yeah. You're just relying on your ass, you know, and praying.
And your processing speed up here.
Oh, it's phenomenal. And relying on him to get through that corner. I've found myself going through the corner and bending down the back straight and going, breathe, because you're just so wide.
No doubt.
It's like nothing else. You ever get a chance to get in one?
Yeah, well, I've not done it once. A friend of mine does the wingless. Yeah, and I haven't. Yeah. I should really go. I'll probably go one year.
It'd be awesome. Yeah.
I know what'll happen. I'll go and then I'll be like, right, I want to do this. No, I don't need that. I don't need that sort of.
That was my mistake. Jumped in a mate's car to try it, and next thing you know.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it's a bloody hoot.
You've got no restrictions and an unlimited budget to plan an event. What are you doing?
I watched Cletus and his NASCAR track, and the boys racing those whatever cars they were.
Oh, the bloody grand. What are they? The Ford.
Victorias,
Yeah,
Crown Victorias.
Crown Vic, yeah.
I reckon that something like that would be a blast. Would be, you know, the cages and stuff in them, and
So like the Freedom 500 type
yeah,
deal, yeah,
that's it. Yeah, something, you know, shitty old track, and just and how slow it appeared. They're probably going fast, but how
it's
slow
the
it appeared.
perfect amount, I feel like.
And all being the same. Like, it should be like you throw your keys in the air and oh, that's my car.
Yeah.
You know, so there's no.
It should be a Le Mans style.
I was about to say,
run to the bowl, get keys, and then figure out which car's yours.
Yeah,
I feel like the
level
local thing. What's it called? The 24-hour of Lemons or whatever.
Yeah,
Like
Lemons,
that's probably the equivalent that we've got here. Hey,
Or the beers
do it. Yeah, the endurance race.
Yeah.
There's something like that where it's a level
Keep
playing
it fun.
field.
Yeah, I like that.
Just
I like that.
You know, maximum budget of $3,000. Go and find some sort of car that's all worth $3,000 and go and put a basic thing in them, take the headlights out of them and stuff, and you know, with
have fun.
Have something that, you know, if you think his car's faster, you know, $100 and you get the keys to that car at the end of the day, and all park somewhere, and you'll get in there and work on them, and then 15 cars are out there. And
I think there is a series of I think it's even the Excel racing or whatever. It's like, if at the end of the season, if someone goes, I want your car, you have to sell it to them. It's like I can't remember.
It used to be the AmCar series, 253 Speedway series. You could protest someone's motor.
Yeah,
and
they do that.
You could do that.
There's a few series that do that. Hey, they do that at the amateurs in the motocross over in America as well. You can protest. You can protest the motorcycle, and you can buy it for whatever.
It's like a cap price.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
So if you got bombed out factory motors and stuff, you can
lose
pick it up. Yeah.
If someone goes, I'm buying that, you can't really refuse. It's like, there's the $5,000.
That's the rules.
Yeah.
So I think something simple like that's fun.
Yeah.
You a bunch of mates just going around at a steady pace. It's excitable. Than it takes the pressure out of it and the bullshit factor out of it as well.
I've often said that it's more fun to drive a slow car fast than to be driving a fast car slow, because you don't have the skills for it, you know, or like you don't have the track for it or whatever. So you got something that's capable of fuck knows what, and you kind of pegged it 70%, rather than going 10/10ths in a bucket of shit.
Yeah.
Anytime you can go like 110% in something, you do not care if it makes it. If it makes it out alive. It dies. Like having a bush car. Honestly, probably I've ridden motorbikes and done all sorts of stuff, but I think having a bush car is probably the most fun I've ever had in my life with my pants on. Honestly, it is so much fun. It really is. It's never not fun.
We was on that. We had a couple mates of mine. We had a HG wagon, you know, 186 around a tree. A couple of mates had Tranas. I won't say whether they're licensed or not, but we used to drive all the way up to Dwelling, up Scarp Road, the gravel there.
Yeah.
And the poor grader operator on Monday, mate. We would just do kilometres and kilometres, and we get back at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, and that was the most fun of anything, was pissing yourselves laughing, like bellyache laughing about stuff that's just happening so slow on a gravel, just having a fat time. That's definitely got a lot of merit to it,
Great. And to close it out, mate, what is on the top of your automotive bucket list right now, today?
Finish my HK.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have that one wrapped up.
Yeah.
How far off do you reckon you are?
Oh, probably a couple of months. I'd need a couple of months. The engine machining would maybe a hold up in that, but probably a couple of months I should be able to bowl it over. Yeah. But very, very close to that.
We'll have to come out. We're going to come out for a visit, I reckon.
Yeah, always welcome. There's beer in the fridge.
Yeah.
Very close to that would be the drag challenge.
Yeah.
You know, because one has to happen with the other one. That'd be.
I think drag challenge is a bucket list item for a lot of people. I think it's one of those things that if you haven't done it, you probably feel like you'd have to do it at some point in your life, right?
We should have one in WA.
We should.
No one's really, and I'm not stepping up, but no one's really stepped up and going, we can do roll racing at Barbagallows. We can do we can organise a motorplex. We can do get the eighth mile boys there and a quarter mile, whatever. Have something on there, and then drive down to Collie and do something there.
Well, they've got an 8th mile track at Collie.
Yeah.
Are they still doing the 8th mile at Albany?
I know you
keep your finger on that.
That did get scrapped off the plane. It was the only thing that got scrapped.
It was too wet, wasn't it? It was too wet or something. Yeah.
I think it was to do with the site works, but it was also to do with the noise. Even though the speedway track is closer to town and makes more noise, I don't know what happened there, but I think the motocross track stayed and the circuit stayed on the plan and everything. The only thing that got bumped, there was an off-road track as well, I think. The only thing that got bumped was the 8th mile, which was an absolute travesty in my opinion. But that's
it'd be cool, it'd be cool to get another one because then you can do something. You know?
Even if you just had Perth Motorplex, Collie Motorplex, Albany, that would be a good run because you could sort of go. You'd start at Perth Motorplex, you run down south and then come back up. You've got 5 days there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Would be perfect. And because you've got probably, 250 Ks between Perth and Collie, and you could go the long way. You know, make it 400.
That's plenty anyway.
Yeah, make it 400 Ks.
250 is enough.
I was going to say, that's plenty.
I think he's not in charge.
No. But I think in like most dragon drives, you're looking at probably 300 to 400 Ks on drive days, right? So let's say we make it 300 Ks. You're probably looking at about 350 from Collie to Albany.
Okay.
Or thereabouts. So it would be pretty well spaced, I think. But unfortunately, it's just not quite there. If we could maybe run like, say, we had race wars at Wildcatcham Airstrip or Albany Airstrip as well. You know, if you could get a regional airstrip involved, you go out to Merredin or you go to Calabarin, something like that.
The thing is, it's hard to get any car to work. Like, it's hard enough to get a car work at the fucking Motorplex, let alone go into an airstrip.
Yeah,
you know? Like,
track,
it does become a bit more of a no prep event at that point, which means it kind of takes some of the heavy hitters out. But at the same time, that brings more of your grassroots dudes in, and it makes it a tuner's game.
Yeah,
and not only an engine tuner's game, a chassis tuner's game.
Yeah, you can have all the horsepower, but if you can't get it to the ground, it gives the lower horsepower classes a bit of a, I'll actually go in this because I know out there I can get my power to the ground. And
that's right.
The other thing you could do is you could do more of like a cruisy sort of event where you just use the Motorplex for however 2 or 3 days in a row, and you go out to this wherever, or go out here. You got to drive out there and you have a party that night, and then you got to be back, and you know what I mean. Like you could do it that way as well. You're still doing the driving. You're going out for a reason to do whatever, you know, like sort of more like not as serious, you know, sort of more of a fun thing, but you still get to do your racing at the Plex. That'd be cool. I'd prefer to do that.
Yeah, I think the challenge though is doing it on different surfaces as well. Because like,
I think the challenge is getting the car and drive the kilometers.
The endurance.
We don't have the surf. We don't have the
endurance is the hardest part, but then it's just like now you're going from one surface to another. You can't just put.
We don't have that luxury.
You can't just put that 7.0 tune in and go A to B. You know, like because you're on a different surface.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I feel like the driver would be the equaliser in that regard because we just don't have the luxury of the.
But the drive the drive isn't the result though. The result is in the average time. So if you can mix that up a little bit, that's.
But you need to make the drive.
You still got to get there unassisted.
You've got to get there and you've got to get back.
To finish first you must finish.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Very good.
Anyhow. Thanks a bunch, Chris.
Dude, I've enjoyed the fuck out of this.
Yeah, it's a really good way to kill 2
hours. We might even do it again,
mate.
We'll just keep dragging you down. You're a local now, so...
Yeah, anytime.
No, I've really enjoyed it. And the worst part is, well, not the worst part, the best part really is that this chat keeps going for another hour after the potty.
That's it.
And you guys miss out on that.
That's it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining, everyone.
Yep, that's it. If you'd like to support the channel, please give us a like and a subscribe because this channel is still in its infancy. This isn't the main channel. This is a new one. So... And if you'd like to get yourself some merch, you can go to torqhub.com.au. I'm shipping it out daily. Hats, shirts, hoodies. It's getting cold. Get yourself a new hoodie.
Bloke's killing it. You can leave us a message as well, so you can hit the little red icon on the bottom of your screen there. Leave us a message, a question, whatever, a review. You want to shout out your mate's business, your business, whatever. We'd love to hear it. So we love hearing from you guys, and thanks for the support.
No worries. Until the next time, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.
How good? How'd you go, mate? You like that?
Yeah.